Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Became Game of Thrones Dragon Guardian movie. Before we start, please go support marioiale for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Naruto is a male. Chapter 1. Hell and brimstone had shattered Valyria forever. The 14 flames, volcanoes that spanned the Valyrian peninsula, unleashed their wrath upon the world like angry gods, devouring civilization with the most malicious hellfire. All death and suffering were caused by the heresy of awakening one man. 7. Damn hell. Naruto looked up, his sapphire eyes feasting on the vault of darkness that painted the sky. White streaks tore the heavens in two, threatening to unleash storms and chaos on Valyria. I'm supposed to be entombed beneath the world for eternity. It was the only way to end my immortality, but those humans took it from me. Hatred and fire burned in Naruto's eyes as he stood atop the highest burning mountains, snarling at all of Essos. With a mere flick of his wrist, the apocalypse was over. Molten flames no longer erupted from relentless volcanoes, the earthquakes that ravaged Valyria had grown eerily quiet, and the pall of black smoke blotting out the sun had parted so that the flickering of lights invaded it. The dragons that had survived the cataclysm pounced on Naruto, lowering their great snouts as if to swear loyalty to their new master. Humanity has used you to plunder and conquer for millennia, but that is over now. From this day forward, you will rule the skies and answer to no one except me. From the ashes below, a terrible force stirred. The dragon horde trembled in fear as a monstrosity emerged, rivulets of burning magma coursing beneath the golden scales of this primordial colossus. A godless roar, so horrifying and untamed, echoed across acres of charred land, causing even the sea to swell with its most furious waves and the earth to shake. A three-headed dragon burst into the world, wreaking untold destruction in its wake. Its eyes towered over other dragons, cementing itself as Mother Nature's most fearsome weapon. Naruto turned to the mighty dragon, a heartwarming smile curling his lips as he raised his hand. It's been a while, Mother of Dragons Ghidorah. Ghidorah hummed softly at Naruto's touches, almost as if he was greeting an old friend. This world isn't ready for us yet, Ghidorah. Let's rebuild this land. Together, we'll make it better. A fortress for dragons. It was then that the legend of the Dragon Warden was born. House Targaryen had prospered under Aegon Targaryen's reign. As the old saying goes, behind every great man is an even greater woman. That was very true, as Visenya Targaryen the Indomitable was their most feared general. Bards sang tales of Visenya's unparalleled combat prowess, and the terror her dragon, Vhagar, would bring, decimating any foe who refused to bend the knee to her. If the gods had a vision of the pinnacle of beauty, Visenya would be their masterpiece. She had an unparalleled beauty that was haunting and almost otherworldly. Her hair was a glorious fall of platinum, her eyes shone a commanding violet, and her voluptuous figure was the envy of many. Visenya was as mortal as she was beautiful. Yet politics bored Visenya. Nothing could bring her as much joy as when she was in the heart of battle. War, triumph, and blood gave her purpose. They healed her and allowed her to feel truly alive. If she wasn't letting her blood-drunk rage get the best of her, she could be found on the outskirts of Dragonstone, scrubbing and cleaning the filth from her beloved dragon's hide. No one understands me more than you, Vhagar. Visenya laughed as Vhagar shook the water off her body. Congratulations, sister. I heard father has decided to marry you to our brother. Rhaenys Targaryen strode out of hiding, smiling like a seductress. Rhaenys was no warrior, but what she lacked in swordsmanship, she more than made up for in cunning. You will be queen when we finally unite Westeros under our hegemony. If that is my duty, so be it. Visenya dismissed him coldly. The Targaryens had a peculiar fondness for inbreeding, something that disgusted Visenya to her core. Sure, she loved her brother, but not in that way. However, she had no say, for her father's decree was absolute. He doesn't seem thrilled about it. A wicked smile appeared on Rhaenys' full lips. Many women would die just to sleep with our brother, yet you deign to entertain the idea. Why? Do you think it was sacrilege? Visenya rolled her eyes. It's none of your concern, sister. As princess of House Targaryen, it is my destiny to marry my brother. Rhaenys sensed the disgust and malice in her sister's tone, which made her want to mock her even more. Ah, as expected of the firstborn. The indomitable one. Always serious and never slacking. You'll soon get wrinkles if you frown like that all the time. The only time Visenya could be seen smiling was when her flawless face was covered in blood. Rhaenys had to resist a shudder when she remembered the maniacal look on Visenya's face whenever they were on the battlefield. If you're here to be the messenger, then you've done your part. Visenya's gaze was fixed on Vhagar, and she picked up her washcloth. I'm in the middle of giving Vhagar a bath. Please leave us alone. Oh, but I haven't delivered my message yet, sister. Rhaenys smiled. Tell me, have you heard of the Dragon Warden? Visenya sneered and wiped Vhagar's wings with tender care. That's just a myth. Old Valyria no longer exists. Some drunken sailors must have mistaken the ruins for something else. Clicking her tongue in disagreement, Rhaenys crossed her arms. The sighting of dragons roaming the sky is still all too common among sailors who dare to venture near Old Valyria. And let us not forget the fall of the Lion King, Tommen Lannister, who took his golden fleet to the Smoking Sea and was never seen again. Our brother wishes to dispel the rumors once and for all. At that, Visenya raised an eyebrow. Egan wants to organize an expedition to Old Valyria. Because of some ridiculous rumors. Why? Rini shrugged. He has his reasons. You were chosen to accompany him there while I remain here on Dragonstone, protecting it with Miraxes. You should prepare yourself. He will depart when dawn breaks. Good luck. Visenya didn't pay much attention to her sister's departure. A maelstrom of thoughts ran rampant in her mind. Why would Egan want to validate those rumors? Old Valyria fell when the 14 fires were awakened, a story that was both pervasive and undisputed. And then there was the story about a caretaker of some kind who held supremacy over many dragons, most of whom didn't perish in the calamity. In the end, these stories should be taken with a pinch of salt. Aegon Targaryen secured the saddle on his dragon, Balerion, before turning to his most trusted aide, Visenya. Are you ready? As I always will be. Visenya's expression betrayed no emotion as she climbed over Vhagar. Let's get this over with. It was no great secret that Visenya reveled in battle, and anything else was just a burden to her. Warfare was ingrained in her as a child, and Egan couldn't blame her for being an enigma. Even though their relationship was distant at best, Egan truly admired his sister, as she was the embodiment of their house motto. Fire and blood. Visenya took flight, with Egan following close behind. The journey to Old Valyria would take them at most an hour with Vhagar and Balerion. However, crossing the narrow sea wasn't the obstacle. It was sailing through the Smoking Sea that troubled them. Those who had the nerve to live deep within the treacherous fog never made it out alive. The lucky ones went mad or whispered some rooster and bull tales about three-headed serpents guarding the ruins. Visenya snorted. If this creature existed, then Visenya would decapitate it and bring back its worthless corpse as a trophy. Egan saw his sister chuckling darkly to herself and decided not to interrupt. Only the gods knew what kind of madness was running through Visenya's mind. As they passed the Smoking Sea, they were shocked at what had become of Old Valyria. A riot of vibrant green and sunburnt orange filled the lands, and the autumn breeze enveloped them. The mackerel sky invited spears of sunlight into the forest floor, as if enchanting the terrain with its warmth. Visenya couldn't help but be amazed by the vast forest's grand current that glittered like diamonds. Was this a paradise? Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard a faint howl. It wasn't the wind, she mused. When Visenya realized, she gasped. It was a dragon's cry. Could the rumors be true after all? Old Valyria wasn't completely vanquished. She looked behind her shoulder and raised her fist toward her brother, signaling him to descend. Vhagar and Balerion zipped quickly across a meadow. The ever-eager Visenya stood and looked around. Impressive. Was what she could surmise. Egan stood beside his sister and looked at the trees. Valyria is still alive, after all. One would think this place should be a barren wasteland, but this is good news. We can migrate here and establish a home to honor our ancestors. No, you won't. Visenya and Egan felt their blood run cold. They turned and were surprised by the intrusion of a hooded man, whose luminous eyes beneath the shadow were as cold as winter. Even Vhagar and Balerion didn't sense his presence. They let out a deafening roar at the unfazed man, who seemed more annoyed than intimidated. Most dragons address me with respect, hatchlings. No matter how demanding or dire the situation, Vhagar and Balerion were fearless, even in conflict. So when the dragons whined and hurriedly cowered behind their masters, Visenya and Egan gasped. Mortals could not perceive the man's true form, but dragons could. What Vhagar and Balerion saw made them swallow a bile of fear, and they involuntarily took a step back. It was a nightmare come true. An unfathomable beast, transcendent and nefarious at the same time, stared at them as if they were protozoans, its 9 tails swaying hypnotically, each one could easily level an island, and its razor-sharp teeth could lacerate even the toughest steel. Visenya was confused. Who the hell is this man? Why is Vhagar so afraid of him? And why the hell did he sound like a father scolding his children? She was Vhagar's mother. Not this scoundrel. Who gave him the rights? Gritting her teeth, she was the first to regain her composure and drew her sword. Dark sister. Tell me your name, demon. What are you? Visenya's outburst only made Vhagar more nervous and restless. She jabbed her mistress in the porcelain face, desperately urging her not to provoke the man before them. Astonished by Vhagar's anxiety, she patted her dragon's snout, trying to ease its fear. Do not worry, my dear. She turned back to the man and hardened her gaze. I demand that you. You demand nothing of me. The man sneered. Vhagar and Balerion flinched instinctively. This kingdom is mine and mine alone. Egan took a bold step forward, his jaw clenched. We have every right to claim this land. Our ancestors lived here once before. They were the Dragon Lords. Dragon Lords. A cruel laugh escaped the man's lips, his voice, though sweet and mocking, held an edge. If I claim to be the king of this land, will you bend your knees? No. You wouldn't. Those are just idols. Meaningless. Visenya was bold to point her sword at the monster in the skin of a man who ruled doom and dominated dragons through fear. In the name of all that is right and just, I, Visenya Targaryen, first of my name, Lady of Dragonstone and Lord of the Dragon of Westeros, hereby condemn you to death. You? Condemn me to death. The man removed his hood, surprising Egan and Visenya. His tone took a surprising turn, becoming cheerful and almost innocent. That tickles my funny bone. How could someone so beautiful and unsurpassable be a killer at the same time? His strong jaw and handsome features were the stuff of maidens' imaginations, but Visenya would not be captivated by his bronzed hair or ocean blue eyes. No, she had a goal. Annihilate this man and reclaim this kingdom. Letting out a war cry, Visenya charged forward, sword raised. Their stupid intention is ridiculous. Just as Visenya was about to slice the man in half, her hand shot out and grabbed the sharp edge of Dark Sister, stopping her blow instantly. Visenya's eyes widened, unable to register what she was seeing. You're an idiot if you think you can kill me with a sword. Petrified, Visenya tried to free her sword from the man's grasp, but she couldn't even muster the strength to pull it away. What? And then she began to mutter, incoherent, atrocious, and likely inaudible to Egan, but clear as day to Visenya. I claim the corrupt, I seek out evil, and I shed your blood to the one who kills and violates. A sword the color of night materialized in her hands, her eyes glowing demonic red. The filth that passes into the purest form of corruption will be reaped when I send you back to your maker. You will repent for your sins with fire and blood. What are you babbling about? Visenya growled. I am Naruto, the guardian of this dragon's keep. He dropped Visenya's sword and raised his own. Tremors tore through the lands, a tremendous pressure fell upon the Targaryen siblings, and Vhagar and Balerion sobbed. Make peace with your demons for your end is near. Laughing with mad joy, Visenya rushed toward Naruto. What was this exuberance and terror coursing through her veins? It was pleasure of the highest order, a sensation that made her feel complete. Yes. This was what she had been searching for her entire life. A worthy opponent. She wanted nothing more than to fork this man with the Dark Sister and bathe in his blood. Shut up and show me what you got, demon. Their clash would be etched in Egan's memories for years to come. Without a doubt, Visenya was a freak of nature whose supreme swordsmanship was unmatched. Not even Egan could best his sister. To see someone who could toy with Visenya as if she were nothing more than a petulant child was terrifying to imagine. However, Visenya was adamant, smashing and slashing her way through to exploit an opening. Naruto stopped her brutal attack with a smug grin that tugged at his face, his eyes appraising her like a hawk's. A fine specimen indeed. Sparks and flames erupted as their swords clashed against each other once more. Not bad for a girl playing dress-up. Blazing fury lit Visenya's eyes, but it soon turned to disbelief as her sword trembled under the cruel power of his might. You dare underestimate me? I respect a woman with conviction, no matter how foolish she may be. A storm brewed from the cold horizon. Without warning, a legion of ferocious dragons plummeted from the atmosphere, their roars able to drown out even the loudest battle drums. Vhagar and Balerion trembled in dismay. The dragons surrounding them were larger in every sense of the word. Now tell me, Visenya Targaryen, why would a man give his all to fight a mere boy? Visenya nearly exploded in offense as Naruto's sword took the form of a cane. Will you humiliate me? Naruto smiled as if he'd already won the battle. I'll humiliate you. Blood pumping, heart pounding, Visenya saw red before swinging her sword without grace or gravitas. There was only vengeance and the desire to annihilate the man who dared to belittle her. Naruto dodged her random blows and slammed his black staff down on her wrist, earning an uncharacteristic yell from the Targaryen warrior. I never thought you were capable of that sound. Visenya gritted her teeth, furious at the mockery. I refuse to put up with this. Sister, please. Silence. Visenya almost shouted at her brother. I'll put his head on a spike. Naruto sucked in a breath and then a chilling smile curled his lips. Don't use such strong words. It'll seem like you're joking with me. A tense silence prevailed, neither of them moved. What's wrong, girl? Your legs are shaking. And then Visenya lunged at Naruto, her eyes murderous. Sword and staff met once more, the maddening grin on both faces. The mischief on Naruto's face turned to sobriety, his voice deep and rich. Your arrogance has blinded you. Do you think it's your birthright to rule this world? No. You know nothing. At least we're trying to make it peaceful. Naruto snorted. By looting and burning many others. By uniting Westeros into one house. Do you have any idea what Westeros was like before our house came? Anarchy. Chaos. The Horror enslaved the Tullys. Do anything, no matter how depraved, for the sake of wealth and gold. 7 houses fighting over petty revenge while the poor suffer. But we came. And we changed that. Waggling a finger at Visenya, Naruto shook his head. Don't cloak your conquest with a cloak of good intentions. You didn't conquer Westeros because you had to. You did it because you could. Visenya's angelic face twisted into a snarl. If we can swallow all of Westeros, then it wouldn't be much to get rid of you. You're in over your head with this, kid. Fearless in the face of death. The thought of surrender never even crossed Visenya's mind. Some might mistake Visenya's unwavering fortitude for stupidity, but she was always allergic to cowardice. She knew deep down that this man was no man and that he saw the creations of the gods as beneath him, but she didn't care. She thrived on adversity. Her next blow, however, would determine the outcome of their battle. Naruto beckoned Visenya with his finger, a wicked smile appearing on his lips. "You said you're a dragon lord, didn't you? Let me put that name to the test." Visenya charged one last time, her sword held high in the air. It all happened too fast for Egan to comprehend. In a moment, Visenya launched herself at Naruto with all her fury and valor. In the blink of an eye, her sword flew from her hand and she was on her knees, at the mercy of the man and his staff. "Give in," she said. She lifted her chin, her eyes burning with defiance. "Good. Any further lessons in humility will be gratuitous." Visenya had proven her worth. In time, with proper cultivation, she would become formidable, a force to be reckoned with. A dragon lord worthy of her name. Naruto turned his attention to Egan, his face darkening. "You have trespassed into forbidden lands and threatened me with death. Any day now, I will have torn your body apart with my bare hands and fed what is left of you to my dragons, but I am nothing if not generous. When you leave here today, tell them. Let every man, woman and child in Westeros know what happened. This dragon keep shall remain untouched for centuries to come. And should any brave man wish to incur my wrath, then know this. Dragons are not the apex predator of the ecosystem. I am." If it weren't for her strong will, Egan would have fallen to his knees. "What will become of my sister? She will remain here, serving me from this day until her last." Visenya didn't object. She had lost, her life had been given to the man who had made her bend the knee. If she was to give servitude, then she would give servitude. "I swear my loyalty to you. My sword is yours, now and forever." Satisfied, Naruto gave Egan one last smile, a dangerous glint flashing in his eyes. "I know you will use your dragon to rule Westeros. And I have no doubt that you will succeed. But heed my warning. If you and the kings after you abuse the dragon's powers, I will sail across the narrow sea and exterminate your kin. That is my promise. Believe it." If it weren't for the breathtaking expanse of lush grass and the sweetness of the daisies lingering in the air, Visenya would have pulled her hair out in frustration. They had wandered through the countryside for an hour and Visenya had an epiphany that they were lost. "Where are you taking me? Do you know what your job entails?" Visenya shrugged. "Serve you? Change your chamber pots? Hunt for food for you? Warm your bed if you wish?" Naruto raised an eyebrow. Visenya mentioned the last point as if she were talking about the weather. A hollow laugh escaped her lips as they ventured into the forest. "You will do none of that. In Dragon's Keep, it is my duty to take care of the dragons. Now, it is yours as well." Speaking of which, Visenya wasn't sure how many dragons existed. As a child, she'd been told that the dragons that lurked in Old Valyria were eradicated during the Doom. Now, the truth had been unveiled to her and she couldn't help but feel thrilled by it. Imagine the prospect of raising not one, not two, but 100 of them. Westeros no, the entire world would tremble beneath the shadow of their wings. As she tilted her chin and gazed up at the jewel blue sky, she couldn't help but smile at Vaegir flying alongside other dragons, singing and playing almost as if they were free-spirited children of the heavens. "Tell me, I've been meaning to ask what happened to Old Valyria. Did the Doom really happen?" Visenya glimpsed Naruto's eyelid twitching violently. "Yes, unfortunately it did. The nobles of Valyria were foolish enough to announce their ends by waking me. It is their greed that ushers in their doomsday. The Red Sea. The burning sky. Genocide. A civilization wiped out because they wanted a weapon of destruction that would serve them. Now, they are ashes." To think that Naruto's awakening had turned the greatest city in history into history. Visenya wasn't sure if she should marvel, shit her pants, or do both at the same time. "How do you expect me to care for your dragons? Forgive my ignorance, but dragons only accept one master at a time. Isn't that their nature?" Suddenly, a black blur descended and slammed into Naruto, mortifying Visenya. She scrambled to draw her sword, beads of sweat forming profusely at her temples. It was a dragon with scarred scales that gleamed like obsidian, its nostrils blowing wisps of smoke and its eyes glowing a gruesome red. Menacing and monstrous, Visenya knew Vaegir would not defeat this one. Naruto was finished, he thought. It wasn't every day Visenya got the chance to see a man fight a dragon, much like playing with a dog in a park. There were no words to express how amazed she was. Naruto was laughing out loud, playing with the dragon in the soggy dirt without a care in the world. "This is Aljuin. He's the beta of the group." Visenya raised an eyebrow. "So who's the alpha?" Naruto smiled. "You're looking at him." A shiver ran down Visenya's spine. There was something alluring about this man. Perhaps it was his devilishly good looks or his mesmerizing eyes that could bewitch those under his powerful gaze, but Visenya had never felt her heart beat faster for any man, and she had known many. Suppressing her lustful thoughts, she regained her composure. "Dragons only accept those they consider strong. That is their true nature. Naruto petted Aljuin, who was stroking his shoulder. Weakness repels them. To be accepted by a dragon is to be acknowledged for your strength. If you want to fulfill your duty as a dragon guardian, you must prove your worth to them. You've done that with your dragon. Now, you need to earn their full respect. Placing a hand on her curvaceous hip, Visenya probed, her eyes wandering toward the towering yet majestic black dragon. I feel as though I'm here to serve you. Naruto waved a dismissive hand. To serve me is to serve the dragon fortress. Your ancestors and their ancestors were once meant to prevent the dragons from being captured and used by greedy men. It was their sworn duty to protect the dragons, something they ultimately failed to do. Now, I've returned. And I have to clean up their mess. Visenya examined the tall oak surrounding her and felt an anomaly, a tingling sensation, almost like a prickling on her skin, as she looked deep into the bowels of the forest. It connected her to something surreal, allowing her to feel the vitality of nature. I've seen you do things that are beyond the reach of humans. Is it possible to reach this power? It's in you. Gesturing for Aljuin to leave them, Naruto stood and watched as his dragon ascended into the sky. Different religions and cultures call it by different names. Your people call it magic. Magic? That caught Visenya's attention. So, you're saying my family can bond with dragons because we have magic inside us? Untapped potential, truly. Most of your kin in the past could harness it. It gave magic a functionality, if you will. Naruto walked toward their destination. Visenya, who was still coming to terms with the revelation, realized she'd fallen behind and quickly caught up with her teacher. Have you heard of the Shadowlands? Visenya brushed a strand of hair behind her ear and nodded. The land of myths. Legend has it that demons and magic reigned there. Naruto chuckled. I hailed from the Shadowlands. In your tongue, they would be known as the elemental nations. Why are they called that? Because their people could bend the elements to their command. I've seen men who could topple the moon. I've seen women who could lift mountains. What you think is impossible, you made possible. And where are they now? Dead. The sadness in his voice did not go unnoticed by her. They were here. They stood before a deep cavern, surrounded by a waterfall that thundered down to the hissing vortex at the bottom. Frogs croaked nearby, wagtails dived from the rocks, and dragons soared above the mountains. It never ceased to amaze Visenya how beautiful this place was. You brought me here so you could watch me swim naked. She teased, a mischievous smile tugging at her pink lips. Naruto rolled his eyes and pointed at the mouth of the cave. To become a dragon guardian, you must first be recognized. Be recognized? Visenya repeated in a puzzled voice. You'll understand once you get in. The raw, palpable magic lurking within the icy darkness sparked her excitement and frightened her at the same time. With a determined look on her face, she plucked up her courage and followed her master into the cave. The sound of trickling water and the echo of his footsteps weren't the only things she heard. There was the rumble of something large approaching. Dread swirled in her stomach. Hugging herself, she managed a weak murmur. What is that? I give you Ghidorah, the mother of dragons. A piercing red eye opened and, like flames in the abyss of darkness, lit up the cavern. The slitted eyes suddenly focused on Visenya, and the intensity almost made her recoil. Swallowing the astonishment back in her throat, she squared her shoulders, stood, and bit her lower lip. There was no room for weakness, not before this giant. All dragons can trace their lineage back to her. She is their undisputed queen. The goddess that even the dragons worship. What should I do? You have sworn your sword to me. Now, you swear your soul to her. Promise her that you will protect her children with all your being. Promise her that you will protect Dragon Fortress with your life. Naruto paused briefly. Break your oath, however, and she will bring about your end. Visenya dropped to one knee, as if expecting to be knighted by the great dragon. I, Visenya Targaryen, swear on my honor and my life that I will protect your children and the children before them from this day until my last. Ghidorah closed her eyes, her sleep taking over. She has recognized you. The dragons will come to know you. Visenya stood up. Does that mean I'm respected by the dragons? They're acknowledging you, yes. Respect, however, is a different thing. Let's let Ghidorah sleep. We have much to discuss. The first night in Dragon Keep was surprisingly peaceful for Visenya. Vagar slept soundly beside her, his serpentine body coiled protectively around his master. Visenya sat on a log, watching the crackling fire with intrigue. She had been instructed earlier to gather grass and firewood. What happened next had scared her. Naruto spewed out a cloud of white flames, igniting the fire that kept them warm. Words couldn't describe Visenya's amazement. What magic could grant its wielder the ability to possess a dragon's tongue? Fascinating. Her trip to the Dragon Fortress hadn't been a waste of time after all. She had so much mystery to unfold and so much adventure to get into. Call her crazy, but she was sure she'd only seen the tip of the iceberg. How did you do that? Naruto swore he saw stars shining in Visenya's violet eyes. In time, you'll be able to bend the elements. Like a spoiled child, Visenya had no patience to wait. She longed for the feeling of being a dragon, like Vagar. We can start now. I'm willing to learn. Patience. Naruto chided, silencing any further protests. Your training starts tomorrow. Visenya nodded, satisfied with the answer. She couldn't wait to do half the things Naruto could. By the way, when I entered the smoky sea, I felt magic in the mist. Is that your doing? Yes. Naruto looked up. I created a dome of magic that surrounds the dragon fortress. Visenya raised an eyebrow. To keep things out. To protect things, he corrected. It would be a disaster if dragons roamed among humanity. Humans aren't equipped to protect themselves from dragons. They're as intelligent as they are dangerous. If history has taught me anything, it's that humanity can't be trusted. But can we? It wasn't an argument. Visenya sincerely wanted to know the truth. That's why we swear an oath. To protect Dragon Fortress. There's no honor in doing this. You get no credit for raising dragons. Bards won't sing songs for our hard work. No one will acknowledge our bravery and sacrifice. We do this so that humanity has a future. Naruto sighed. I've lived a long time. I know what humans are capable of if they wield great power. Absolute power corrupts. Frustration boiled inside Visenya. There were so many things she could do if she were sovereign. I strongly disagree. Look at Westeros and Essos. Do you know what I saw? War, poverty, corruption, hunger, squalor, and so much suffering. Dragons can be an impediment to all of that. It won't solve any problems. You have all the power to change all of that. To make people's lives better. The fire in Visenya's eyes wasn't quenched by Naruto's glare. Don't vilify me. You can't even begin to comprehend what it's like. I didn't sit on your shoulders and urge you to procreate when you didn't even have the means to feed yourself. I didn't ask you to kill or rape. Or steal. I've never forced you to do anything. Humanity did all the depravity itself because it's capricious. And this changes nothing. With all your great powers, you choose to do nothing. You don't even care if there is suffering, as long as you are removed from this world. That is evil in itself. We are in charge of this fortress. Our responsibility is far greater. The affairs of the outside world are none of our concern. Naruto dismissed him coldly. I'm not making a polite suggestion, child. My word is law. Fuming with rage, Visenya looked away. Naruto tossed a handful of twigs into the fire, his voice softening. If you've lived as long as I have, you'll understand. No matter what you do to try and change the world for the better, it will always return to where it was. As long as the seeds of evil fester within the hearts of men, this world will continue to rot. All we can do is preserve the peace. Keep the dragons away from the humans. My brother and sister have dragons, Visenya argued. Are you going to take them too? No. He answered without hesitation, surprising her. They are bonded to their masters. That's the beauty of dragons. They are loyal to a fault. As long as your brother is a fair ruler and shows restraint in wielding his power, I won't take it from you. Pray that he and his descendants don't make mistakes. Visenya's brows furrowed. However, her dragons can reproduce. Naruto sneered. It seems you have no idea about dragon mating rituals. Believe me, dragons are very particular about their partners. And they don't mate as often as rabbits. You'll understand soon enough. After all, your dragon is female. This piqued his curiosity. Is Vhagar a woman? I'm not surprised if you don't know. Dragons exhibit no identifiable hexual dimorphism, so it's only natural for mortals to think they're hexual. I can assure you they're not, and many of my dragons will be coming for her soon. Naruto gutted some fish he caught and fried them over the fire. Alduin is the strongest of his flock, so he'll be the first to court Vhagar. Visenya laughed and stroked Vhagar's scale. I was there when she hatched. She was so cute when she screamed at me. And now, she's all grown up. She's fought wars with me. She was there for me when I cried. She was there when I won the war. I can't imagine a life without her. You'll have more children soon. Visenya blinked and turned to Naruto. A glint of mischief flashed in her violet eyes, and she smiled, her tone distorting into a much more sensual one. Oh? Will you bear me more children? Oblivious to the implication he'd made, he nodded. Yes. As Dragon Warden, it's our duty to love and care for all dragons equally. They're our children. Outing to herself, Visenya decided to do some research of her own. So have you slept with any women before? Naruto looked up, his expression still impassive. I've only slept with the woman I loved. Oh? Who is she? It doesn't matter now. She's dead. Naruto handed the fish bar he had cooked to Visenya. Looking at the perfectly grilled fish, Visenya's voice was low but hopeful. Do you think your heart of stone has room for another woman? My wife loved me unconditionally. She believed in me when no one else did. She loved me even when I had nothing. There's no woman like her. Naruto sighed and stood up. Eat well and rest well. You have a long day ahead of you tomorrow. With that, Naruto's body dissolved into a whirlwind of leaves. He really needs to teach me that too. Morning came too early for Visenya's liking. Everything that had happened, this odyssey she had unwittingly embarked on, was like a dream to her. In this wonderland where dragons thrive, she was a willing prisoner. She stripped naked and tested the temperature of the water with her feet. To think a hot spring existed. When she submerged herself in the pool, the scars on her matchless white skin were healing as if by magic. I see you found the hot spring. Visenya let out a squeal of indignation and covered her modesty with her hands. What are you? She was so shocked that she didn't notice Naruto standing on the surface of the water. You said you wanted to learn what I know, right? Cautiously, she nodded. Good. Stay naked. What? Visenya stared at Naruto in disbelief. What had become of him? Had his carnal desire for her erased all traces of his morality? Panic overwhelmed her as Naruto stripped naked in the blink of an eye and allowed himself to sink into the water. She would have slapped him with all her righteous fury if not for his apathetic features. What are you doing? She might be dignified and proud, but Visenya was still a maiden. Surely she wasn't ready to be taken like this. I said. He covered her mouth with his hand to silence her. Have you had breakfast yet? Visenya shook her head weakly. I'm going to break your limits. Try not to bite your tongue. This will hurt a lot. Naruto raised his hand in the air. Blue fire ignited at his fingertips and without warning, he slammed his hand down on Visenya's bare chest. Searing agony shot through his being, causing his body to convulse furiously. He let out a silent scream and collapsed, tears streaming from his bloodshot eyes. Fight the pain. Don't let it get to you. His voice, though reassuring, wasn't improving her situation. Her nails dug into his back as she clung to him for dear life. The throbbing pain in her skull turned to chills. She closed her eyes in a grimace. What the hell was this? Her muscles were boiling, her bones ached, and every fiber of her being commanded her to end her torment with a swift suicide. It's done. Just like that, the terrible pain faded. Panting laboredly, Visenya felt weak. She would have collapsed if Naruto hadn't wrapped his arms around her lithe body. Close your eyes and look inside yourself. Do you feel it? The ringing in her ear was nauseating, but she could still hear what he was saying. In the midst of her distress, she realized how sculpted his body was. The old wounds and scars riddled across his body only made him even more attractive. And then she soaked in his scent. It was euphoric. Pine and roses. He smelled wonderful. From the gods. What was she thinking? It was then that she felt something empowering inside her. A surge of boundless energy shot up from within, flooding her body with adrenaline. The dam holding her back had burst. This sensation made her feel invincible. It was as if she could conquer the world. That's right. Visenya Targaryen was reborn. Visenya. Visenya looked up, her eyes intoxicated. What was this heat pulsing in her stomach? She didn't understand, and it was driving her crazy. Hot. Why was her body burning with lust? Untamed lust. That was all she could muster as she looked deep into Naruto's worried blue eyes. A giggle escaped her as she licked her lips. Intoxicated by desire and enslaved by passion, Visenya crashed her lips against Naruto's. Chapter 2. The year had flown by, and Visenya Targaryen still felt nervous every time the thought of kissing Naruto crossed her mind. It was surreal, and she almost had him all to herself, but his unbreakable willpower had forced him not to take advantage of an intoxicated woman, even though she wouldn't mind. The rejection didn't discourage Visenya. On the contrary, she was dazzled by his impeccable self-control and integrity. Visenya's beauty was the inspiration for a painter's dream. She may not be skilled in the arts of seduction, unlike her promiscuous sister, but she knew that no man should be able to resist her. That spoke volumes about Naruto's virtue, and she admired him for it. Visenya was diligent when it came to her training. Whatever hell Naruto threw at her, she never complained, instead striving to surpass herself. Unfortunately, she had no affinity for fire and couldn't possess a dragon's tongue. Through sheer determination, Visenya was able to realize her true strength. Ice and snow did her bidding. She had grown stronger in Dragon Fortress than she could have ever imagined, but that didn't extinguish the fire in her belly. Ambitious for power and hungry for knowledge, Visenya challenges Naruto to a duel every week to test his limits. Although she had never surpassed her master, she never gave up, and it was her enthusiasm that captivated him. If I win, you'll take me to Bravos. Naruto raised an eyebrow. This is your how many times have I defeated you? Visenya puffed out her cheeks, annoyed by her master's high-minded manners. Are you going to take me there or not? Scratching the back of his scalp, he yawned. Why Bravos? She shrugged. I've heard a lot of good things about that place. I've never actually been there. Besides, it's always nice to get a breath of fresh air from the outside world once in a while. Very well, then. I'll oblige. If you can bring me to my knees, I'll take you to Bravos. A glint of mischief flashed in her sapphire eyes. But if you lose, you'll be cleaning Alduin's cave for a month. At that, Visenya groaned loudly. It's not fair. Nothing in life is fair, my dear. The question is, are you ready to clean Alduin's cave for a month? Dark sister unsheathed, Visenya's eyelid fluttered and she squared her shoulders. Your arrogance will be your downfall, master. Oh? Aren't you going to reacting to the impulse? Naruto dodged a thrust aimed at his right eye. Whoa. I didn't even yell start. Launching a flurry of slashes with her sword, Visenya smiled. Nothing in life is fair, master. Without hesitation, she launched a swift uppercut to her master's jaw. As anticipated, the attack failed to connect with its target, but that was part of her plan. She leaped into the air and launched a butterfly kick that sent him skidding a good meter away, right where she wanted him to be. Plunging her sword into the ground, she clapped her hands together in a prayer motion. Ice geysers shot out of the ground, freezing their battlefield into a barren tundra. Naruto was confused. Visenya had come a long way to master her magic. However, it would take more than sharp icicles to bring him down. Don't rejoice yet. Ominous black clouds spread across the sky, transforming and swirling furiously into a vortex. Thunder rumbled through the valley, and a jagged flash of pure light enveloped the dragon keep. No matter how many times Visenya had witnessed this phenomenon, she couldn't help but gasp in awe and fear. The tornado that struck next uprooted trees as if they were nothing. Even, dear. Visenya snarled. Never. Your loss. A gale hit her so hard she nearly flew away, but she was prepared for it. Ice had rooted her feet to the ground, ensuring her safety for now. You can't win. As much as she hated to admit it, there was no way she could freeze a damn tornado, but that didn't mean all hope was lost. She still had a trump card up her sleeve. Whatever she was about to do was a one-hit wonder. If she failed, she'd be completely drained of strength. That's why failure wasn't an option. Visenya raised both slender hands and let out her fiercest war cry. At first, Naruto was intrigued, but the smugness on his face was erased when a flurry of snow hit him. Wait. Did she just bring a blizzard with her? Impossible. How far did she bloom? The snow may have engulfed her, but it didn't cover the gold of her laughter or the grace of her joy. Distracted, Naruto didn't see an approaching ice spear. It was pure instinct that kept him from being decapitated, but in his carelessness, he tripped on a sheet of slippery ice and sank to one knee. Ha! This position suits you, master. The fierce howling wind dissipated into a comforting breeze. Lightning from heaven filtered through the cracks in the dark clouds, melting the snow that had devoured the meadow. Visenya was so excited by her victory that she didn't realize she had exhausted all her strength. Her eyes rolled back in her head and everything went numb. When Visenya came to, she was in Naruto's warm embrace. Butterflies fluttered in her stomach as she took in his seductive scent. He had always held her like this when she grew weary, as if he feared she would leave him. And she would melt into his strong arms like a lovesick fool. Perhaps it was Naruto's bitter past that prevented her from having an intimate relationship with Visenya. Impatient as she was, she could never force herself on him. Every time she saw his sorrowful eyes and the insurmountable pain in his grimacing features, her heart raced. Master Naruto smiled. You won. Finally. Visenya laughed weakly. I gave it my all. That's what you did. He helped her to her feet and offered her his brightest bolt. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll leave for Bravos. Flying in the Emperor sky with Vhagar had always been exhilarating for Visenya. She could never tire of this rush. After immersing herself in arcane magic and cleaning up dragon dung, a vacation wouldn't hurt. That didn't mean she was careless with her duties. No. She prided herself on being a dragon keeper, but she had the heart of a true dragon. And a dragon loved freedom above all else. Feeling the wind blow her hair back. Feeling the warmth of the sun against her skin. Touching the clouds beneath her feet. This moment was perfect and she prayed it would stay. Alduin's roar could be heard from the distance. The dragon of destruction. The world breaker. What a fierce beast. She had no idea how Naruto managed to tame that condescending, overgrown lizard. Despite being a dragon guardian, she couldn't earn Alduin's respect, no matter how hard she tried. The selfish dragon bowed his neck to no one but Naruto. He even had the audacity to mock her when she cleaned his cave. Hey. Naruto, who was riding Alduin, waved at her. I'll race you. The loser takes care of the cattle field for a month. Arg. It was no secret among them that they despised livestock duty. It was mundane, an unavoidable task, and practically a bane to their existence, but it had to be done. Oriches, sheep, elk, and bison were all precious livestock. Still, Visenya was always up for a challenge. Challenge accepted. Visenya patted Vhagar on the back of her head and shouted. Win this race for mommy. Vhagar let out an invigorated roar before rushing towards his destination. Last year, Visenya had managed to knock the great and powerful dragon warden off his high horses. He had opened up to her, which made her realize how enormous a force he secretly was. Dealing with her master's erratic mood swings wasn't her strong suit, but she survived well. It also allowed her to experience things she'd never felt before. Weaknesses. Humility. Energy. But most of all love. Her moment of peace was shattered when she saw Alduin hurry past Vhagar, his master's almost childlike courtship filling the air. She rolled her eyes. What a boast. Don't let Alduin beat you. Show him what you're made of, Vhagar. What seemed like a few hours had felt like an eternity to Visenya. The dragons crossed the continent and finally arrived together at their destination. Alduin and Vhagar launched themselves from the clouds, surveying the wonder that was Bravos. The Titan of Bravos, the colossal monolith that served as Bravo's trademark, baffled Visenya. Frankly, she couldn't fathom how her people had built it, but it was an astonishing sight, for it epitomized Bravosi values. Acceptance, diversity, tolerance, and harmony. The rest of the world should really learn a thing or two from Bravos, Visenya thought. When they disembarked their dragons onto a high platform, Visenya was ecstatic beyond belief. Finally. Civilization. Everything is amazing. Naruto chuckled and watched as his dragons took off into the sky. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't start fights. Don't stand out. Just blend in and stay calm at all times. I understand. He gave Naruto a thumbs up and pulled the hood of his cloak over his head. The trip to the cobbled Moonsinger lane was full of noise and color for Visenya. The variety of bars and shops was bustling with people, a true splendor to behold. And then something strange struck Visenya. It seemed Naruto knew where he was going. There was a sense of focus about him as he navigated through the busy crowd. Puzzled, she didn't see where she was going and accidentally bumped into someone. How dare you? Do you know who's in front of you? UPS. The pompous plump man Visenya had the misfortune of colliding with had a stench of arrogance about him. A long stick was practically inserted up his ass, if the way he looked at Naruto and Visenya was anything to go by. It took every fiber of her being not to lash out and gouge his eyes out. Seriously, how could Naruto not be annoyed? If this braggart thought Visenya was going to submit, then he had another thought coming. Not recognizing the cocoon in royal attire, Naruto walked past him. The guards raised their spears at him. Big mistake. Kneel before the son of the Lord of the Seal, Lord Joseph Loredan. The guards shouted. The self-titled man with a beer belly laughed. The blonde man kept walking. He barely gave them a glance. Hey. Stop. Leave us alone. Naruto's voice was icy. They were annoyingly persistent. One of them decided to block Naruto's path with raised spears. I said stop. No. What? Rolling his eyes, Naruto calmed his nerves. This day wasn't going as planned. I said no. But we have spears. The guards reasoned. This man was either disturbingly unconcerned about his situation or he simply had a death wish. Everyone in Bravos knew about the son of the Lord of the Seal. There was still someone who dared to stand against them and live to tell the tale. This was a first. I don't care. Naruto really had nothing to do. If anything, he was more annoyed than scared, waiting for the guard to clear the way. When he realized they weren't going to budge, his fingers twitched. If you don't kneel, we'll kill you. Oh boy. Visenya licked her lips anxiously. Blood before lunch. What a treat. Naruto frowned. Why? Because you disrespected Lord Joseph. So? The peasants had disappeared from sight. They knew a fight was about to break out and it wasn't wise to be around in such a commotion. It didn't take a genius to realize that Joseph had been riding on the coattails of his father's status as Sea Lord and intimidating the lesser folk for years. Visenya placed a hand on the hilt of her sword, her mind already planning the most efficient way to eviscerate her enemies. You don't look like you're from Bravos. The captain of the guards sneered. Where are you from? Naruto shrugged. I don't know. You know it. Stop playing dumb. Attack me. Did I stutter? The guards weren't sure what to do. They expected submission, not placid resistance. Unlike the cowering peasants, Naruto didn't care whether Iosef was the Sea Lord or God. Frustrated, Iosef barked. Just kill him already. Visenya. Madness and joy flashed through Visenya's violet eyes as she drew her sword. With pleasure. In the blink of an eye, Visenya transformed into a gust of wind. A shockwave exploded, sending spiderweb-like fissures all over the brick walls around her. Those jovial idiots had no idea how their throats were being cut. Joseph gasped at how strange things had turned out. One moment, his men were about to impale the irritating blonde, and then said blonde yelled a name, and the next thing he knew, his men had all crumpled like a sack of potatoes, blood pooling beneath their mutilated corpses. A paralyzing fear overwhelmed the son of the Lord of the Seal, if his dirty pants were any indication. Stay back. Do you know who I am? My father may have you. As if on cue, a man emerged from the side of the alley and punched Joseph in the face. The man turned around, fell to his knees, and bellowed vigorously. Lord Warden, we don't know you're here visiting. Please forgive Lord Joseph for his impudence. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Do I know you? No, you don't know me, but I know you. I am Vilhymantarian, the first sword of Bravos. The man was built like a piece of shit, armed to the teeth, but smart as a whip, worthy of being the first sword of Bravos. And please tell me, how do you recognize me? Your cloak. Vilheim looked up and hardened his gaze, a facade to hide his fear. No one in Bravos would dare bear the Dragonkeeper's seal. The whirlpool of the maelstrom. All Bravo who serve the Lord of the Seal are taught the legends of the great Dragonkeeper. Our ancestors owe you a great debt. It is a true honor to meet you. Naruto shifted his cold gaze to the confused Joseph, who was sitting in a puddle of his own making. It seems Bravo's prosperity has led its leaders to become arrogant. Why aren't you killing him? Joseph yelled at Wilhelm, spat, and senseless rage poured from his mouth. You're worthless. Your family serves my father. If you don't collect his damn head, I'll have your family hanged. Do you understand me? Kill these vermin now. Silence. Wilhelm shot a heated glance at Joseph and growled. We'll talk about this later. Something was wrong, Visenya thought. Why would Wilhelm worship Naruto? In fact, the inhabitants of this city were in a state of terror when they saw him. It would seem Naruto had some unseemly ties to Bravos. There was more to this than met the eye, she was sure of it. Naruto sighed. Don't give me a reason to pay a visit to the Sea Lord. Do you understand? Crystal, Lord Guardian. Run away then. Hurriedly, Wilhelm threw Iosif, who was twirling and screaming murder, over his shoulder and ran out of the alley. Visenya raised an eyebrow and turned to her master. What was that? And why is that first blade of Bravo so afraid of you? He looks like he just saw a ghost or something. At that, Naruto offered Visenya an innocent smile. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go find the seamstress. You're in desperate need of some new clothes. But first, let's go get some ramen. Ramen? What is that? The food of the gods. Now let's hurry. Opulent was the word to describe the Sea Lord's palace. The black marble and gold pillars gleamed with wealth and glamour, the bespoke architecture of the abode, a symbol of Bravo's vast fortune. The Lord of the Seal of Bravos, Viggo Loredan, was installed on his throne, displeased by the news. Word spread that his first blade had attacked his son, an act of treason of the highest caliber. However, Wilhelm was as strong as he was wise. A virtuous man who wouldn't even think of sleeping with a boar. As absurd as it was, every lie contained some shred of truth. Out of prudence, Viggo contained his fury. I heard you hit my son. May I ask why? The first blade of Bravos knelt before his Sea Lord. Your son tried to have the Dragon Keeper killed. The chamber fell into a deathly silence. For a moment, only the deafening emptiness accompanied them. When the Lord of the Seal emerged from his stupor, his trembling hand reached for a glass of wine. The Dragon Warden. Impossible. A century had passed since the Dragon Warden rampaged through Bravos. How was he even alive? Tread carefully, the Sea Lord before him had incessantly warned. There may be a plethora of religions in Bravos, but the Aboriginals worshipped only one god. The Dragon Warden. Our scout saw dragons flying around Bravos. It's really him. Did the Dragon Warden kill my son? No. He didn't. Viggo leaned back in his throne, his jaw unhinged and horror distorted on his aging face. I need more than a drink. Where is my son? Where is he? Go find him. Now. Right away, sir. Wilhelm stood up and went to find Joseph. It was at this very moment that Viggo knew his son had screwed up big time. He needed a drink. No. A drink wouldn't do. Not even a gallon would help ease his migraine. Gesturing to his squire to bring him a barrel of wine, Viggo let out a furious growl. The Lord of the Seal before him was taught to fear the Dragon Keeper for a reason. Hell, even the Iron Bank fears the Dragon Keeper. And the Iron Bank was famous for grabbing kings by the balls. When the wine was brought, so was his son. Joseph babbled gibberish, but Viggo paid no attention. Frankly, Viggo didn't hear half the garbage his son had spewed. For what seemed like eons, Joseph pressed on, denouncing the petulant man who didn't pay him homage and demeaning Wilhelm for tarnishing his dignity. Then, with great determination, the Lord of the Seal rose from his throne and walked silently toward his son. Although he was drunk, his mind was clear. Father? The Sea Lord took a sip of wine and tossed the glass aside. Nice coat. Joseph blinked. Thanks, I got it. Viggo ruthlessly buried his fist in his son's stomach. Iosif fell back, groaning in pain. Wilhelm sighed and watched with stifled satisfaction as the self-absorbed blue-blooded mucus vomited up his entrails. This wasn't going to be pretty. As Sea Lord, Viggo was ruthless in his dealings and rarely compromised. It was his iron fist that made Bravos both prosperous and feared. Do you know what you did that angered me so, my son? I didn't do anything. That man tried to kill me. I was trying to defend myself. Father. You have to execute him. That was the last straw. Viggo could only tolerate ignorance for so long. He lifted his son by the neck and looked him straight in the eyes. Do you know who that man is? The man you tried to kill. Is that useless nobody? With a sigh, Viggo pushed his son aside and reached for another glass of wine. His hands shook as he devoured his drink. That useless nobody, he's the Dragon Warden. In a frenzied rage, Viggo pointed out the window. Do you see the Titan of Bravos out there? That statue was built by our ancestors to honor him, you ingrates. What's so good about him? What's so great about him? The Sea Lord frowned at his son and objected. If you've attended your classes, you'd know what that man did to Bravos. Now I have to give you a damn history lesson about Bravos. Get more wine. The poor squire shuddered horribly and nearly stumbled as he handed wine to the enraged Sea Lord. About 100 years ago, Bravos was run by slavers. Like the other free cities, inequity breeds crime. Crimes breed hatred. Hatred brings suffering. Bravos was the capital of slavery. Our ancestors were slaves too. And then came one fine evening. The slavers killed one of the warden's dragons. Captured it. Tortured it. Those fools sealed their fates. Vigo sat back on his throne, his eyes glassy. The warden found out. He fell upon Bravos with great vengeance. Slavers. Army. Their gods did not save them from the warden's fury. He burned them all. Every last one of them. And he didn't bring a dragon with him to do the job. No. He brought hundreds of them with him. And even a three-headed leviathan. Bravos has no slavers because the warden revolutionizes it with blood and ash. One man did the impossible. Overnight, the slaver capital became a city of free men. Nursing his throbbing headache, Vigo closed his eyes. When the other cities heard what had happened, they didn't believe it. So they came after Bravos, intent on conquering. Pentos. Volantis. Myrrh. They marched by the thousands. And died by the thousands as well. The bodies he had massacred, hanged and cremated that day it laid the foundation for who we are now. From then on, the Bravosi praised him as the Titan, and we prospered for 100 years. As reality crept in, fury filmed Vigo's eyes. And then, my boy, you went and threatened to kill him. Do you have any idea what that means? Father, I can fix things. The Sea Lord frowned. How? Killing the Dragon Warden. Did you even hear what the hell I just said to you? It's done, father. Joseph pleaded. I've already hired the faceless men to do the job. Vigo nearly choked on his saliva. Why you did what? Pleasure filled Visenya's senses as she slurped down her fifth bowl of ramen. The sauteed toppings, the mild chicken broth that gave her palate a burst of spicy flavors, and the silky noodles made it a truly extraordinary experience. Naruto couldn't help but laugh as Visenya hummed a cheerful tune while sipping her soup. I see you've tasted heaven. What is this ramen? Why haven't I heard of it before? Naruto smiled. It's a gift bestowed upon Bravos. It's part of Bravosi cuisine, actually. You won't find it in Westeros. Visenya gave Naruto a big smile and took a sip of her coffee. The fragrance of the milk and the bitterness of the coffee beans blended in perfect harmony. Truly a pleasure for the senses. A milk mustache spread across Visenya's pink lips, causing Naruto to squirm in disapproval. He took out his handkerchief and wiped the stain from her plump lips. Stunned, Visenya stared at her master with wide eyes. Heart racing, she looked away. I'm glad you like this place. If Naruto noticed Visenya's flustered cheeks, he didn't show it. Instead, he directed a smile at the waitress, who was clearing their plates. Visenya caught a glimpse of the dog blatantly staring at her master. How dare she? Mesmerized, the vagrant skipped happily back into the kitchen, much to Visenya's stifled rage. I'm going to kill her. Naruto blinked. What? Visenya's dark demeanor turned into a bright smile. What? Anyway, there's an inn nearby. We can reserve 2 rooms for the night. A bedroom will do. Visenya laughed shyly. I mean, we shouldn't spend so irresponsibly when we can save more for adventures. Besides, you promised you'd get me more clothes, didn't you? Naruto laughed heartily. I almost forgot. We'll get you some chainmail and leather boots later. When Naruto smiled, small details like the crinkle at the corner of his eyes wouldn't go unnoticed. Like a ray of sunshine, his smile shone with a light of hope, chasing away her fears and making her feel happy to be alive. Why did she always feel so vulnerable around him? Visenya wasn't an expert on such things, but she always felt nervous whenever she had a moment with her teacher. Cradling the coffee cup in her hands, she looked up. Do you think I'd look beautiful in a dress? That caught Naruto off guard. He could never picture Visenya in a dress. You look perfect as is. What seemed like a casual compliment from Naruto actually meant a lot to Visenya. Do you think I should get a dress? If it makes you happy. Naruto tilted his head, musing to himself. But is it practical? I mean, we're glorified herders. Most of our time is spent in pastures, not in fancy bars and restaurants. It makes me happy. Visenya glared at him. I love him. Yes. There's no argument for that. Naruto made a sturgeon face and nodded. Then we'll get you a dress. Happiness gave her laughter a captivating melody, much like an oral hug. Without knowing how it happened, Naruto realized he'd enjoyed teasing her because he wanted to get a little closer to her. When they shared stories under the starry night and laughed about gods know what, he took everything she said seriously. How pathetic of him. To think he'd fantasized about his protege. This was just a phase, he reassured himself endlessly. Her ferocity in battle was surpassed only by her beauty, and her beauty was matched by her devotion to Dragon Keep. In her, he saw greatness. A woman with the blood of a conqueror running through her veins. Her responsibility to Dragon Keep far outweighed anything. As much as he hated to admit it, he didn't deserve her. Shaking his head, he dismissed those thoughts, dropped a golden dragon on the table, and escorted his apprentice out of the restaurant. As they walked out onto the streets, Naruto was surprised when Visenya put her arm around his elbow. Just before he could protest, she closed it. It'll be weird if the two of us loiter around this avenue like a pair of assassins. That'll draw attention. We want to blend in, remember? Naruto laughed. He hadn't laughed that hard in a long time. Truth be told, he could handle these new changes. I can't argue with that. You know, I never really get around to asking you anything. He raised an eyebrow. Ask. Do you aspire to be more than just a dragon guardian? I always wanted to build a new world where I could live with my family. In peace. No worries, you know. Open countryside. Room to grow. Things don't have to be complicated. A bittersweet smile curled her lips as she thought of a future that would never be. I never expect to outlive them. How do you live with that? Loneliness. Taking care of dragons has its advantages. It keeps you distracted enough to forget about the noises. Naruto chuckled. Besides, you can't get so hung up on the past that you forget to make the most of who you are now. As they wandered through the bazaar, Visenya glimpsed a bronze mirror on a nearby stall, reflecting something suspicious behind them. In the middle of the crowd, she saw someone following them. Naruto. Did you just realize that? A carefree, almost fearless smile appeared on Naruto's lips. That woman has been following us for quite some time. Visenya laughed. Would you mind making a bet with me? Naruto raised an eyebrow. A gambling addict now, are you? I bet Sea Lord sent you his regards. Taping a finger to his chin, Naruto pondered for a few seconds. What's the bet? Midoriya's cave. 2 weeks of cleanup. Naruto rolled his eyes. I bet the Sea Lord's son sent us his regards. Negotiate. Visenya smiled. Aren't we going to involve this assailant? Nah. Too much trouble. Besides, she won't attack us now, not when we're surrounded by people. Too many things could go wrong. A killer is only going to kill when the opportunity presents itself. If she's where I think she is from there, then she won't act, at least not yet. Sounds like fun. Slyly, Visenya leaned closer to Naruto, her breasts pressing lightly against his biceps. Now tell me, why do the people of Bravos fear you? Everywhere we go, people seem to look at us strangely. Is there some secret you're hiding? Something horrible and dark I'm not aware of. Oblivious to Visenya's subtle yet lascivious gesture, Naruto looked thoughtful. Do you want to hear the long story or the short one? Oh? Are you a storyteller now? I can sum it up in a few words. Can you do that? Naruto laughed softly. Do you want it raw or sweet? Raw. Visenya laughed. They screwed up, so I screwed up. And what's the whole story behind your grand praise? Naruto shrugged. When old Valyria fell, anarchy consumed Essos. The slavers held the power, so most of the lands were dominated by them. Long story short, one of my dragons, Smog, fled Dragon Keep. It's not uncommon for them to do so. They are, after all, freedom-loving creatures. Unfortunately, Smog was just a hatchling when he flew across Bravos. He was too young. Too naive and curious for his own good. His hide wasn't strong enough to withstand primitive weapons like arrows. Lucky shot, but it worked. He was knocked out of the sky and captured. Well, this was a revelation to Visenya. Contrary to popular belief, dragons weren't vicious monstrosities. They were loyal and curious, but their intimidating appearance gave them a bad reputation. Smog, however, had an unhealthy hatred for anything that wasn't gold. Not even other dragons dared trespass Smog's lair, lest they earn his wrath. The only reason she could get remotely close to the grumpy dragon without becoming a snack was because Naruto was giving her a sponge bath. Smog loved his sponge bath. No one has a greater affinity with magic than dragons themselves. Those who wield magic have a connection to the life force. It is said that if dragons die, magic dies with them. I think you can sense Vhagar's emotions, can't you? Now that Visenya thought about it, she could always tell whether Vhagar was distressed or joyful. It's always been second nature to me. I never really gave it much thought. Naruto sighed. I don't just feel the dragon's emotions. If they're suffering, I can experience their pain too. So you felt Smog's pain when he was being tortured. They put molten lava in his scales just to test their durability. They broke his claws to build swords. They broke his bones to feel powerful. The only time he rests is when they bury him in gold. There's a reason Smog loves collecting gold. It keeps him safe. It takes away his pain. Pinching the bridge of his nose, Naruto shook his head. I failed him as a father. I failed to protect him. That is my greatest regret. There was no doubt Naruto loved his dragons. If anything were to happen to Vhagar, Visenya would wage war if necessary. I understand. You've killed many humans. Have you ever felt remorse? Do you feel remorse when you step on an ant? Visenya raised an eyebrow. Do you really see humans as ants? If you've lived the life I've lived, it all means nothing to you. Visenya's eyelid twitched. Am I an ant to you? No, you're special. That made Visenya's beautiful face light up. Really? I want to be delicate here. How do I say it? You're more like a butterfly. What? He pounded his master's shoulder furiously with his fist and let out a scream. A butterfly? I'm just joking. Naruto patted her shoulder and stifled a laugh. Learn to take a joke, will you? Unbelievable. Visenya seethed. This is too much. Unexpectedly, Naruto playfully flicked a few strands of her shining golden locks over Visenya's head. Alright, jokes aside, let's talk about the killer. Visenya smoothed her disheveled hair and gave Naruto an irritated grimace. I thought you wouldn't ask. Their walk took them under a secluded bridge, exactly where they wanted to be. As they turned, acting on pure instinct, Naruto caught an arrow aimed straight for Visenya's eye. Someone's impatient. While Visenya's beauty was regal and ethereal, this woman was the embodiment of sin. The sparkle of her amethyst violet eyes could put the stars to shame, the cherry pink tint of her cheeks begged for kisses, her wavy bobbed hair was elegant, the loose-fitting dress adorned her beautiful figure and barely held her ample bust, and her long, slender legs were as pale as porcelain. She was perfection realized, just like those Targaryen princesses. An oil paper parasol rested on her creamy shoulder, her fingers tracing the cane. You must die, my lord. The many-faced god demands it. You're no ordinary courtesan. Naruto tilted his head, finding the woman quite familiar. Where had he seen her before? Manners maketh a man. My lady, what is your name? She narrowed her eyes, wary of her target's intentions. Samui. Realization hit him like being approached by a dragon. It all made perfect sense now. Her stoic demeanor, that unnatural beauty, the resemblance was uncanny. Could it be possible that Samui had been reincarnated? Wait. Was reincarnation something to be with him? Could this mean his comrades were among the living? 1,000 questions bombarded Naruto. If reincarnation existed, did that mean he could see her and know? He shook his head furiously. Let it go. Forget about her. Nothing could change that. Nothing. Hinata is dead. Let the past die. The conflict and confusion on her face soon turned to anger. Your accent has already blown your cover. You're not from Essos. The embroidery on your dress is from Volantis. What is your real name? You don't need to know anything. Your death will soon be upon you. Absolutely disgusting. Visenya was exasperated by the staring contest Naruto and Samui were sharing. If anything, she was the one who deserved her master's full attention, not that hitch. If only Naruto could give her the damn command, she thrust her sword up where the sun didn't shine and make that fool squirm for mercy. On the other hand, Samui never had the chance to start. Her master was immune to injury. Visenya would know this because she had once decapitated him and the bastard had simply lifted his head and planted it on her bloody neck. Needless to say, Visenya fainted that day. Meanwhile, Naruto had regained his composure and a black sword slid from his sleeves. Almost immediately, Samui went on guard. Cries of pain and distorted screams of anguish were heard as Naruto gave his black sword a few practice swings. Every blow she made, Samui heard thousands of cursed souls calling out to her, crying and demanding to be set free. Demonic. Utterly evil. If Samui were any lesser, she would have run away. Only a sword that had killed thousands could emanate such a vile aura. No wonder the son of the Lord of the Seal had paid such a high price for his target's head. Very well. The many-faced god has been trying to claim me for quite some time now. I hope you have what it takes. To Visenya and Naruto's surprise, Samui's sword radiated a brilliant glow. Electricity surged into existence and surrounded Samui. I know a man who covers lightning with his sword. I considered him my brother. Samui narrowed her eyes. Where is it? Dead? Naruto didn't smile or blink. His face was inscrutable. Impossible to read. I killed him. His voice was as lifeless as death itself, his eyes were almost incapable of sympathy, and the moonlight cast an ominous glow over his strong features, revealing his slanted eyes. It was Samui's unwavering willpower that stopped him from kneeling. Visenya inhaled the air. Fear, she smelled. A Cheshire grin appeared on her lips. Oh, this was going to be fun to watch. Samui took a deep breath and charged. Her first sword strike missed as her target stepped back, her second strike missed again, and her third, and her fourth, and her fifth. What the buck? To calm her nerves, Samui launched herself into the air and delivered a knee strike to Naruto's jaw, an attempt to disconcert him. Quick as lightning, Naruto stepped forward to break the assault and retaliated by throwing her over his shoulder. What Naruto didn't expect was that Samui broke his fall by wrapping her legs around his neck, performing an armbar from the start and turning his disadvantage into her unfair advantage. Wow. You're fine, but a lock like that isn't going to kill me. Oh yeah? Samui smiled sadistically as she gave her wrist a sharp twist, reveling in the sickening sound of crunching bones. To her disgust, Naruto didn't flinch. The pain didn't even faze him. Suddenly, Naruto maneuvered himself out of their predicament, found his way onto Samui, grabbed her hand, and gave it a good tug. The dark velvet sky was filled with Samui's piercing scream, her face gaunt and terrified. This is how you break someone's hand. Make sure the hand is unplugged. Your enemy will be in so much pain they won't even know how to defend themselves and will turn into a meowing fool. The cold, sharp edge of Naruto's sword rested gently against Samui's neck. It allowed her to comprehend her defeat and process the inevitable. You know that the human body can endure a tremendous amount of pain before it stops functioning. You're in luck because I happen to know 1,000 different ways to make you feel pain without dying. So, let's be polite here and do it the easy way. Tell me your name. I won't ask you the third time. Conceding to her fate, Samui bit her lower lip. I am Sarah Targaryen, abandoned daughter of King Jaehaerys Targaryen the Wise. Visenya bucked. T. Targaryen. King Jaehaerys. Wait. Where in the seven hells is my brother? Isn't he supposed to be the king? Samui no, Sarah glared at Visenya and spat. Who the hell is your brother? Aegon Targaryen. Visenya said expressionlessly. You know. The Conqueror. Rider of Balerion. Prince of Dragonstone. Do you ring any bells? Aegon Targaryen has been dead for 42 years. 40 now? Visenya snapped at Naruto, who simply shrugged. Explain. Time warps very differently inside Dragon Keep. An hour there could mean a decade has passed here. Or a second. I'll tell you more later. As Visenya went through an existential crisis, Naruto turned to Sarah. So what's a princess like you doing here? Shouldn't you be living in a castle instead of being a lackey of the faceless men? Why aren't you serving your father in Westeros like you're supposed to? Sarah snarled. If you wish to kill me, do so. I don't owe you my backstory. Beneath the moon's soporific glow, Naruto's crimson eyes looked increasingly menacing and inhuman. The faceless men knew they wouldn't come to me. Someone must have paid them handsomely for my head. Who is it? Did the Lord of the Seal send you to do his bidding? Kill me? Impressive. Not many could look death in the face and not break. Sarah's eyes reeked of hatred, but she'd already made peace with her demons. I've endured far more terrible things in my life than being afraid of you. I was abandoned by my father. I was a street rat for many moons. I was sold into slavery in Volantis. I was at death's door more than I could count. Believe me when I say this. You don't scare me, Lord Warden. Very well then. Sarah Targaryen closed her eyes. Life didn't cross her mind. Actually, nothing happened. She had no ties to anyone. No good memories of anything. She hadn't left anything behind. Companionship. He didn't have the luxury of enjoying it. Family. Don't make her laugh. Love. What's that? Some nonsense parents tell their kids at night. At that moment, all he felt was loneliness. From this day forward, I will lose your life to myself. You will fight and die for me. Now, Sarah Targaryen, tell me everything. Viggo liked his spooky palace whenever he needed to hear himself think. The downpour fell on Bravos with a roar, the crash of thunder echoing through the walls. The mere thought of the Dragon Warden coming for him filled him with utter fear. A brilliant flash of white filled the chamber. And then darkness. As the lightning flashed with its sudden brilliance once more, Viggo saw the horror unfold before him. There was a monster sitting across the table, a mirthless smile playing on his lips, his eyes scarlet coals, and his voice a sweet poison. This isn't how I imagine meeting you, especially not under such circumstances. I think you know who I am, don't you? Viggo gulped. Is this the part where you kill me? There was an uneasy pause. Naruto sat silently, watching like a hawk watches a mouse. Every second they spent in this eerie silence only made Viggo anxious. The great and powerful Sea Lord jumped as Naruto dropped his black sword onto the table. This sword can kill me. Viggo looked at the black sword resting idly in front of him, beads of sweat forming profusely on his forehead. You know what I'm going to do to your son. Naruto's voice was soft and deep, but altogether dangerous. I'm giving you a choice. You can try to kill me with that sword. Or I'll walk out of here and gut your son like a fish. Ridiculous. For starters, there was no choice, at least not for Viggo. If he chose the sword, he had no doubt he'd lose his mind faster than he could blink. Of course, he could risk his life, but that would mean betting everything on his good-for-nothing son's mess-up. If he didn't fight back, his son would be dead. What kind of choice is that? I hope you're not waging a war inside yourself. Naruto stood up and walked slowly toward Viggo, his gaze unwavering. This is your last chance. Take the sword. Try your luck. See what happens. Viggo's confusion shattered him. His face gaunt as he let out a silent scream and slammed his fists on the table. So what if he were a Sea Lord? The Dragon Warden had the world at his mercy. No higher power could compete with that. Naruto placed his hand on Viggo's shoulders and gave it a light squeeze. The most important thing for a wise ruler is integrity. Good values. Give your people an ideal to strive for. Help them achieve wonders. And never forget where you came from. That's why the title of Sea Lord in Bravos isn't inheritable. You have to earn it, just like you did. But, at the end of the day, we are what we are. You've made your choice. Make peace with that. And I'll do what I have to do. Is there anything I can say that will change your mind? The gleeful yet sinister smile plastered across Naruto's face made Viggo's blood run cold. Can I share a story with you before I go kill your son? It wasn't a question. Once upon a time, a farmer was plowing his field. Lice proved to be a nuisance to the farmer, so he stopped his plow and purged his jacket. Unfortunately, they still bit him, and to free him from the pesky lice, he burned the jacket. Naruto leaned down and whispered his threat softly into Vigo's ear. I advise you, even if you have been humiliated once, to fail to make the necessary fire the second time. Are we clear? Chapter 3. The world was sick, so the gods sent their champion to purge the evil that infested the lands. He who could not be bought by wealth or women. He who was a hero to the weak and a monster to the wicked. Bards wrote songs about the Dragon Warden, a man who would herald a better world out of blood and carnage. A world dedicated to the need for freedom, understanding, and justice. In truth, Naruto had no desire to create a better world. Older men had tried and failed. Hell, he'd done it before, and look how it turned out. Peace never lasts. In the face of atavistic forces, the world was doomed to live in an endless cycle of harmony and violence. After all, war gave birth to strong men ushered in peace, peace made weak men, and weak men caused war. With a black blade in his hands, Naruto made his way to Joseph's chamber. He took his time, making sure Joseph knew he was coming. Like a predator playing with its meal, Naruto wanted Joseph to hear the blood-curdling screams of his guards. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Joseph knew his doom was inevitable. There was nowhere to hide, no divine power to absolve him of his sins, no redemption for his deeds. Humming a cheerful tune, Naruto took cheerful steps as he dodged a guard spear. Futile. Why did they bother trying? Clicking his tongue in disapproval, Naruto brandished his knife and decapitated the fool. 2 more men decided to try their luck. 2 more heads fell to the cobblestone floor. This isn't something I like doing. Naruto wiped the blood from his ebony blade on the cloak of one of the dead guards, his gaze fixed on the living ones. But I think Visenya is infecting me. The guards were cautious, but they grew smart in this gruesome battle. One-on-one fighting was suicidal. 5 against 1 and they might have a chance. Naruto knew what the guards were thinking and called out to them with a curled finger. His gaze unblinking as one of the guards broke formation, likely out of fear. Anticipating the incoming random sword strikes, Naruto gracefully dodged, grabbed the poor idiot by the neck, slammed him against a brick wall, and plunged the knife into his throat. Naruto stared into his victim's soul and saw the life drain from its eyes, as if it were guiding him to the afterlife. Nonchalantly, Naruto tossed the corpse aside and turned to the trembling guards, who were frozen in dismay. Their blood ran cold as Naruto began to twirl his knife dangerously with one finger. My flesh is not with you. Step aside and I will spare you. Serve your lord and I will send you to your gods. Jerking a thumb over his shoulder, Naruto smiled, showing off his work. Mutilated corpses were scattered throughout the hall, blood splattered red against the white marble wall, and the stench of death permeated the air. Well. Too bad, really, that the good men had to die for a pig. The guards let out a final war cry, raised their swords, and ran toward impossible odds. For their bravery, Naruto would honor them with a death worthy of their fortitude. Naruto leaped into the air, his black blade transforming into a halberd, and brought it down unforgivingly upon his enemy. A fountain of blood and gore spurted out as his victim was split in half. Without hesitation, Naruto raised his halberd with Herculean strength and swung it once more, cutting through steel, flesh, and bone like a hot knife through butter. The many-faced god had a good harvest that night. Have you been holding back our fight this entire time? Visenya emerged from the shadows, stunned by the bloodshed wrought by her master. Sarah had seen her fair share of senseless killing, but nothing like this. As a professional assassin, she maintained her composure well. Slowing down. Naruto laughed softly. Oh, my sweet summer girl, you have no idea what I can do. Visenya snorted. Is this going to come back to bite you in the ass? What do you mean? You're going to kill the Sea Lord's son. There will surely be consequences. Did you think about the consequences of stepping on an ant? Naruto replied. In any case, it's getting late. Let's get this over with quickly. It didn't come without a surprise when Naruto kicked the door off its hinges and found Yusuf cowering beneath his bed, muttering incoherently. What a disappointment, really. Naruto expected a fight at the very least. A selfish, abrasive jerk like Yusuf tyrannized his subjects to feed his delusions of grandeur, but when push came to shove, all his false bravado would drop like flies. 50 of his men died for you. Do you have anything to say about that? Buck off. My father will cut your head off. Do you hear me? Naruto blinked. I went to him before I came here, actually. I offered him the chance to kill me. Granted, that chance is too small to be considered as such, but it's still a chance nonetheless. To preserve his title as Sea Lord or die fighting for his son. You want to know what his choice was? When Joseph realized this, his body trembled frantically. Don't be afraid. I take no pleasure in murdering people. Naruto smiled with lifeless mirth, but his voice was sweet as honey. Come out now. I won't hurt you, I promise. After all, I'll never go back on my word. Believe me. Perhaps it was Naruto's hypnotic smile and melodic voice that lent confidence to his assertions, but Joseph's body acted of its own accord. Slowly but surely, he dragged himself out of bed and stood, albeit groggily. Naruto took a step forward, but that elicited a horrible shudder from Joseph. If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it the moment I found you. There was no argument for that logic. Naruto placed a hand on Joseph's shoulder, a sinister smile curling his lips. Look me in the eyes. What do you see? At first, Joseph saw a pair of soft blue eyes, but then his vision became blurred. Reality collapsed like a house of cards, and he was swallowed by a sheet of darkness. When he came to, he found himself in an alley. What's going on? Why was he sniffing the dumpster? Wait. Did he turn into a dog? When he looked up, fear consumed him. He saw an apparition of himself staring back at him sadistically. And then the memory hit him painfully. He was only 8 years old when he ran through the decrepit streets and found a skinny dog scavenging for scraps. In a moment of rash impulse, he grabbed a blunt weapon and bludgeoned the dog to death. It made him feel powerful. But what was this madness? Why did he turn into a dog? He tried to run, but saw his 8-year-old self grabbing a nearby club and chasing after him. There was no escape. I was too hungry to run. Move it, damn it. No matter how much he screamed at himself, his body wouldn't move. When the blow hit his face, fire scorched his body. It was as if his face had exploded from the impact. The second blow came so quickly. His skull cracked brutally, and flesh oozed out everywhere. What remained of him was a grotesque convulsing mess. Darkness, black as the soul of a sinner, devoured him once more. And a flash of light shone on his face. This time, he found himself squeezed under a bush, his breath coming in short gasps as he looked around frantically. Was he in a forest? From afar, he heard wolves howling, and terror coiled in his stomach. This happened when he was on his 15th name day. To satisfy his perverse fantasy, he tied a meat thread around a peasant's neck, threw said peasant into an abandoned forest, and unleashed the hungry wolves. Now the tormentor became the tormented. Joseph tried to run toward him, but his clumsiness caused him to stumble over the branches. As he hissed in pain, the wolves turned and looked at him. Oh no. The menacing red eyes reeked of bloodlust, his intention clear as day. Stay back, he shouted loudly. Backing away, he only managed a guttural croak before the beasts pounced on him, tearing him limb from limb. His muffled scream was cut short when one of the wolves went for his jaw. This was hell. Make it stop. Please make it stop. Make it stop. Joseph blinked in the darkness once more. And the cursed light cast its ray upon him, this time promising another nightmare. Meanwhile, Naruto wiped his hands, satisfied with his work. Visenya and Sarah were confused by what had unfolded before them. Seconds ago, Iosef was staring into Naruto's eyes, but things quickly escalated. Iosef let out a sharp scream and suddenly sank to his knees, defecating and convulsing. What in the bucking hell of the seven had happened? I find a quick death far too pleasurable for him. Naruto walked past his apprentices nonchalantly, motioning for them to follow him out of the chamber. As we speak, he is experiencing the life of every victim he has murdered, raped, and tortured. He will relive them over and over again until his body ceases to function. Visenya paled. That's too much, isn't it? If he's a saint, then he wouldn't be in trouble right now. He's reaping what he's sown. You promised him you wouldn't hurt him. And I keep that promise. I didn't hurt him. Karma did. The terrifying chill ran down Sarah's spine as she bore witness to what the Dragon Guardian could do. It was inconceivable to think such hellish torture existed. Not to mention she tried to murder him just a few hours ago. This could be her fate. Clapping a hand over her mouth to stifle her strangled scream, Sarah turned to Naruto, horror on his handsome face. The indifferent facade she always wore was now shattered. Why, you're a monster. No. She didn't mean to blurt that out. It wasn't intentional. Terror shook Sarah's entire body as Naruto turned around, his smile betrayingly gentle as he caressed her flushed cheek. Return to the house of black and white. Tell them what happened. Tell them that death has to wait a little longer. Let them know you've sworn loyalty to me. You are now a Dragon Guardian, from this day to the last. Sarah wasn't sure how to digest this, but her voice had regained its coldness. A man without a face never fails. Failure means death. The faceless man has no identity, yet you still cling to your heritage. Do you understand now? You were never a faceless man to begin with. Don't be afraid when you deliver the news. Faceless men wouldn't try to bestow their gift on you. They don't take lives without exorbitant compensation. It wasn't very persuasive, but it made sense nonetheless. I'll pick you up from the temple tomorrow. The inn was a peaceful retreat with luxuriously furnished rooms. Visenya wanted the room with a mezzanine that offered a stellar view of the ocean. The soothing sound of crashing waves set the mood for the evening. Exhausted, Naruto collapsed onto the bed with a hand over his eyes. He would have fallen asleep if not for the sudden weight that fell on his hips. When he opened his eyes, he nearly choked. A very naked and beautiful Visenya was straddling him, a sensual smile playing on her lips. The moonlight perfectly cast its glow over her curvaceous waist, her milky white skin, and her hazy violet eyes. She was truly elegance personified. Be Visenya. Shut up. She leaned in, her eyes glowing with the promise of ecstasy. As long as Naruto submitted to her desire, she would give herself to him. Their lips were inches away. Any man would have tasted Visenya's mad lust, but Naruto knew better. Lust could never dictate his actions because he had yet to face his demons. His eyes bored into hers, halting her advance. Do you really love Hinata that much? She died for me. I'll die for you. Their time together in the Dragon Fortress wasn't all well. There were days when they argued, fought, broke up, agonized, and made up. All these ups and downs made their lives more vibrant. Visenya wanted to force her way to Naruto's lips, but it felt as if her body was bound by invisible threads of what-ifs. What if he rejected her? What if she wasn't good enough for him? What if he'd never loved her to begin with? Naruto wrapped his hands around her and placed a soft kiss on her forehead. The unbearably fragile kiss sent a surge of sensation coursing through Visenya's veins. All her thoughts about who she was, her insecurities, and her desires became irrelevant. This moment, tender and delicate, was beautiful as it was, and she couldn't ask for anything more. As she rested her face on his sculpted chest, listening to the rhythmic beating of his heart, happiness overwhelmed her. I know, he said softly. Then, an epiphany struck Visenya. Why don't you grant me immortality? I can live alongside you. Only a madman wants immortality. No, life was a gift, but immortality a curse. You have no idea what you're wishing for. Immortality is a fate worse than death. You'll be forced to watch everything you care about grow old and die, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're on the verge of madness. As long as I'm with you, I'm not afraid. But I am. Naruto's voice, though tired, was unyielding in its conviction. This is not a fate I want you to have. You don't make this decision for me. The man could never bear to see the woman he loved hurt. If the choices he made proved selfish, so be it, but it would be done so that he would never be responsible for her pain. He'd experienced heartache once, and it had nearly destroyed him. This was Visenya's impulsiveness speaking. She simply didn't know it yet. She simply will talk about this another day. When will that day be? Naruto chuckled. Impatient now, aren't you? If you don't want to talk about it, then tell me about dragon transformation magic. At that, Naruto's eyes widened. You snuck into my library again. Visenya laughed mischievously. I'm a bit of a wanderer. Besides, the library is built so people can come in and read books, isn't it? What do you want to know? Is it possible to learn this power? To become a dragon? Yeah. Visenya narrowed her eyes, her fingers tracing circles around his chest. There's a but isn't there? Dragon transformation magic was formulated by Naruto after excessive trial and error. Turning into a dragon required unparalleled focus and a vast reserve of power to do so. After all, this wasn't a parlor trick. Cells had to mutate at the atomic level, bones had to expand exponentially, and flesh had to be rigorously augmented to withstand tons of load. The science behind it was too sophisticated to explain to Visenya, even in simple terms. You're not ready yet. So, when will I be ready? She asked zealously. It was already disheartening enough for Visenya to know that she couldn't breathe fire, but this solution could very well be her salvation. Imagine the possibilities. Riding a dragon was one thing, but being a dragon now, that was a whole new mountain of madness. Pinching the bridge of his nose, Naruto sighed. You need to sharpen your mind. The spell is easy to cast, but difficult to control. If you take the form of a dragon, your mind won't be ready for the backlash. The instincts to kill. The instinct to destroy. You wouldn't be able to control it. Once you taste the bloodlust that all dragons feel, nothing will quench your thirst. You might not be able to go back. So what do you propose I do? Visenya moaned as Naruto hugged her tighter. Wrapped in the warmth of his embrace, she melted instantly. I suggest we go to sleep. We have a long day ahead of us. There you go again. Changing the subject. Are you going to change the subject if I ask you about Sarah? A snore escaped Naruto's lips, much to Visenya's annoyance. She playfully punched him in the chest and growled. I know you're not sleeping. Letting out a deliberately loud sigh, Naruto opened one lazy eye and grumbled. What about her? Why did you forgive her? She tried to kill you. She wielded magic without knowing it. That's talent. Besides, she's related to you somehow, isn't she? Visenya almost shuddered. He looks like he's only a few years younger than me. Is that a problem? It's weird. I mean, if I hadn't come to Dragon Keep, I'd be in Westeros. Chances are I'd be marrying a man I don't love. I'll probably be moody, deceitful, and hateful. You told me this before, didn't you? The Targaryens practiced incest. That you're supposed to marry your brother. What's that all about? Visenya paled. It's complicated. Traditions, I supposed. Apparently, the Targaryens aren't the only great house that practices it. Most, if not all, of the great houses in Old Valyria practice incest. It keeps the bloodline pure, so they say. I think it has something to do with the dragon bonding. How peculiar, huh? Taking in Naruto's scent of sage and tangerine, Visenya closed her eyes. Sleep was already claiming her. Being in the arms of someone she loved and cared about, nothing else was more than enough for her. Heaven was a place on earth for him. A halo of golden sparkles filled the bedroom. The warmth of the morning sun woke Naruto, and he saw something magnificent. The glow shone with an irresistible bias in Visenya's favor, highlighting every detail about her that made her otherworldly. Visenya's eyelid opened, startling Naruto. "Did you dream about me last night? Were you awake this whole time?" Visenya responded with a hint of laughter playing on her lips. "You snore louder than Veigar." "No." Naruto actually seemed offended by that statement. "I'll have you know that it's impossible for me to snore louder than Veigar or any dragon of her size." "Why are you so defensive?" she joked, half playfully, half mischievously. A pillow flew straight into Visenya's face, sparking a pillow fight. Their raucous laughter and purrs were music to her ears, and neither of them was willing to give in. And then Visenya pushed Naruto back onto her bed, pinning his hands above his head. Neither of them blinked as they stared intensely at each other. Sparks of fiery passion drove her to the edge, her heart roaring in her chest. "Here goes nothing." Visenya sought his mouth with a hungry kiss, running her fingertips over the strong lines of his cheekbones, his jaw, the taut sinew of his neck. The scent of his skin intoxicated her with every breath. The taste of his mouth, the feel of his solid body, his untapped desires felt immeasurably arousing. A pleasurable ache swelled in her stomach. Suddenly, she couldn't kiss him hard enough. When Naruto felt her intensify wildly, he forcibly released her, ignoring her moans of protest. His own breathing hitched and seemed to disorient his thoughts. Visenya, he touched her reddened cheek, a thumb tracing along the bridge of her nose. "I'm sorry." "Why?" Visenya's voice cracked. "Do you even know how much I love you?" The war had hardened Visenya's spirit, forcing her to wrap herself in a recluse's shell in order to be strong. That was her upbringing, an upbringing her father had fervently demanded. Even her brothers called her the Ice Queen, but that wasn't her. She didn't think she'd find a man who could free her from her shackles and show her what it was like to be truly alive. The joy of realizing she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him, by the gods, she'd even dreamed of their wedding. This moment made her realize that even though she was completely overwhelmed by his intense passion, he could hold back. How did he resist her? Was she not attractive enough for him? No, how could she degrade him like this? Naruto never saw her beauty as her redeeming quality. It was superficial. Strength, determination, and an iron will attracted him more than anything. However, what happened next left her stunned. Naruto kissed her slowly, deeply, licking the silky recesses of her mouth. Visenya's shoulders tensed as she felt her skin suddenly become sensitive, her body tingling at his gentle touch, and she couldn't help but moan in pleasure. Time seemed to stop when she felt his fingers tangle in her hair. His affection, his love, his need, it all began to become clear to her. When their lips parted, their foreheads touched. "This isn't fair to you," he said in a harsh whisper. "Do you still love her?" The love Naruto had for his deceased wife had now turned to horror. Pangs of guilt pierced his pounding heart, like 1,000 knives lacerating his soul, every time he closed his eyes. Knowing he couldn't protect his wife from being possessed by that nefarious witch and turning into a monster, broke him. He had to kill the woman he loved. A part of him died inside, making it impossible for him to recover. Every time Naruto felt his heartbeat for Visenya, a bile of fear choked him. Paralyzing him. Mocking him. And he'd see visions of his wife dying at his hands. Naruto's stupor was cut short when he felt Visenya's gentle fingers wiping away the tears rolling down his oppressed eyes. "I was a failure as a husband. I couldn't even save her." Hearing Naruto's confession shattered Visenya's heart. Whatever tragedy had traumatized him had taken hold. It also made her realize something crucial. People saw the Dragon Warden as the embodiment of destruction, but that's not what he truly was. Naruto wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, his past made him vulnerable, but that was his foundation, it was what made him human. Wrapping her hands around Naruto's neck, she pulled him towards her. "I won't leave you, Naruto. You still have me. The dragons. The Dragon Fortress. Everything. If you want to live, to truly live, you must let go. Let go of the past. Forgive yourself and move on." Snuggled against her soft chest, Naruto closed his eyes. "Forgive myself. Otherwise, you can never truly be alive. You'll be too afraid to love. And when you do, you expect to fail. You expect it all to fall apart. That's not living, my love. You're giving the past too much power over you." Visenya cooed softly as she hugged him. "It won't be an easy journey, but I'll be there for you. Every step of the way, I'll pick you up when you're down." They were made for each other, that's what I knew. She loved him. If only I could say those 3 words to her too. If the vicissitudes of life had taught Sarah anything, it was never to look a gift horse in the mouth. The Dragon Warden had offered her the chance at a new life, the chance to be part of something spectacular. An opportunity usually arrives like a snail, but once it passes, it runs away like a swift rabbit. This was a gift from heaven. Surprisingly, the faceless men didn't scorn her. They acknowledged her departure with smiles, nothing less. Sarah Targaryen stood on the promenade in front of the Temple of Black and White, surveying the crystal blue ocean. From a distance, she could see the silhouettes of dragons within the steel-gray clouds. She was ready for her new life. The mighty dragons descended before her, and the impact shook the ground. Sarah couldn't help but stare at them in awe and fascination. Instruments of war and weapons of mass destruction, any one of these dragons could wipe out an army in the blink of an eye. It was no wonder the Targaryens could reign over Westeros for so many years. The dragon keeper dismounted from the back of his black dragon, grinning to the leader. "How are you, Sarah Targaryen?" "I'm a copacetic," Sarah replied with a small smile. "Is that even a word?" Visenya joked, the annoyance in her voice audible. Naruto's smile remained firm. "Are you ready?" "If I may," Sarah straightened her back. "I'd like to be called Samui." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Why is that?" "Sarah is a cursed name. I was abandoned when I was Sarah Targaryen. Adrift in this mad world. Lost and afraid. I found my identity as Samui in Volantis. And I've lived my life as Samui ever since." Naruto clicked his tongue and shook his head. "Samui represents your identity as a slave. A dragon warden is not a slave. You may despise your heritage, but it is the reason you are here. Fate has spun its imprint of destiny using the name. Sarah Targaryen. You will respect that name one day." Sarah sighed and shifted her gaze to an impassive Visenya, who was standing above Vhagar. The beige silk dress she wore stood out like a sore thumb. "That dress doesn't seem practical." Sarah's frankness irritated Visenya. Naruto made a stifled, laughing noise. "Looks like I'm not the only one who thought the same thing." Visenya shot Naruto a look of veiled anger, who pretended not to notice. "For your information, I can kick your ass while wearing this dress." "Though you might rip that dress in battle," Sarah replied tersely. "Hey. I do what I want." Visenya snorted. This pair of walking teats dared to criticize her fashion choice. Where the hell did Sarah get her arrogance from? No. Visenya refused to put up with this mischief. Once they had returned to the Dragon Keep, Visenya would instill some discipline in Sarah. That being said, Naruto had miscalculated one thing. Sarah had no way to get to the Dragon Fortress. Vhagar was her dragon. She'd rather cut off her arms than let Sarah accompany her. As for Alduin, that was self-explanatory. How is he going to get to the Dragon Fortress anyway? Sarah blinked. On a boat. Naruto and Visenya stared at each other for a moment before bursting into laughter. The Dragon Fortress was an impregnable stronghold, guarded by a perpetual fog that deterred invaders. Any self-respecting sailor knew better than to explore uncharted territory. Only a dragon could reach the Dragon Fortress, but Sarah wouldn't know that. Did I say something wrong? It's nearly impossible to reach the Dragon Keep by boat, my dear. Naruto stepped to the side and turned his body, offering Sarah a majestic view of Alduin. "Sarah, this is Alduin. A great dragon. Alduin, meet Sarah Targaryen. She's now part of our family. Would you be so kind as to let her ride on you? We really need to get back home. That's our only hope." Like a child throwing a tantrum, Alduin snarled Sarah at Sarah. Visenya laughed, knowing how this would end. Naruto, however, was patient with Alduin, as a parent would be with their petulant child. There. I taught you better." Alduin shook his head vehemently and bared his fangs. However, this aggressive behavior aggravated Naruto. "I don't want to hear this. Hey. Look at me, Alduin. Hey. Look at me." The black dragon let out a bone-shattering roar. "Oi. Don't start acting up, do you hear me?" The dragon crooned and then whimpered in frustration. Flames even burst from its nostrils. "I want an inner voice up here. Hey. Don't joke around with me, boy. Is this how we behave?" It was almost comical to Sarah to witness a glorious beast wailing like a spoiled child. Any grown man would have soiled himself before Alduin's gaping maw, but not Naruto. He stared down the dragon, as if daring the harbinger of death to try anything funny with him. Naruto stroked Alduin's muzzle, his gaze softening. "Be a good boy. Take Sarah home. Just this once, okay?" It would be a miracle if Alduin would grant it, Visenya reflected. Dragons were stubborn for their own good. If a dragon was determined to want something dead, it would fight tooth and nail just to get it. After all, dragons perceived the expurgation of humanity as sport. Just as Visenya had predicted, Alduin refused to bend his neck for anyone other than Naruto. Agreeing to Alduin's demand with a weary sigh, Naruto sheepishly scratched his head and gave Sarah an apologetic look. "I suppose there's no changing Alduin's mind. Looks like Sarah might really need a boat after all." Visenya laughed loudly and crudely at Sarah's plight. Ah, triumph. Visenya always preferred her dish of revenge served piping hot. That wouldn't be necessary. Naruto's face broke into a wicked grin. "I'm about to do something I haven't done in years. Do me a favor, will you?" Sarah blinked. "Don't shout." Suddenly, a vicious storm struck all of Bravos with great fury. The fire of doom erupted from beneath Naruto, engulfing him in molten lava. Charring and burning, the inferno grew ravenous, devouring Naruto whole. A gust of black smoke shot out, smothering the air with a confetti of embers. And then they heard a terrible murmur. There were things humanity couldn't fight. Acts of God were one of them. But this. What Visenya and Sarah had witnessed that day made them realize one thing. If they didn't believe in the existence of God, they do now. From the darkest nightmare, a dragon rose from the abyss, its outstretched wings so massive they eclipsed the sun. As the great beast stood on its hind legs, its height rivaled the titan of Bravos. 9 serpentine tails pierced through the auburn sky, each possessing the destructive power to flatten mountains and conjure tsunamis. With its claws extended, it could crush elephants as if they were mere toys, an equivalent to its impeccable power. Then it reared its head back, opened its toothy jaws, and let out a thunderous roar, unleashing a shockwave so powerful it split the seas in half, so deafening it drowned out the thunder. No religion could imagine such a giant. Man's fallacy was to believe that gods of epic proportions could be comprehended. This was the living embodiment of destruction that could shake the heavens and shatter the earth. There was nothing more terrifying than knowing that, should the day come, no force could rise against this insurmountable adversity. A deity among dragons who could spell humanity's extinction on a whim. The fork of white lightning struck the earth without mercy, its intensity matched only by the great dragon's unfathomable power. Beholding its cruel, slanted eyes that burned with terrifying malevolence, Vhagar and Alduin instinctively bowed in submission before the colossal monstrosity. While Sarah was mortified, Visenya was awestruck. Could this be the pinnacle of magic? Could she do the same as well? What Sarah stumbled, but who could blame her? Why, you're the dragon warden. Though motionless, the dragon looked down, scrutinizing judging everything below it. And then it descended, as if beckoning Sarah to step atop it. Sarah let out a ragged breath, gathered her courage, and climbed onto the dragon. When she steadied her wobble, she leaned down and patted the dragon's neck. I'm ready. The wicked red dragon took off into the sky, churning earth and circling in its wake. Chapter 4. The fleeting beauty of a rose was like life itself. It would eventually wither. All beautiful things do. That's why Visenya felt a thorn in her heart when she saw Sarah smiling next to Naruto. She knew better than to be jealous, but she couldn't stop thinking about what ifs. They clicked almost instantly. Sarah was sociable, and Naruto was open-hearted. Visenya's sigh exhaled a vapor of warm breath carried by the cold, stiff wind. Dawn blossomed on Dragon Keep, dyeing the snowy mountain bright orange and red. Whenever she felt disturbed, she would take a walk around the ranch, feed the livestock on the farm, and take in the fresh morning air. The trip to Bravos was supposed to be rejuvenating, not disappointing. That said, it made her think. What if she ruled Essos? The entire continent was ruled by slavery. Women were degraded, denied dignity as slaves. Children were shackled by the chains of tyranny and oppression. Why was kindness such a rare commodity in this world? How could the gods engrave suffering into reality? Could she do anything about it? From time to time, Visenya persuaded Naruto to use his powers for good. To make the world a better place. After all, if anyone could save the world from the cruelty of men, it was him. But he always gave her a serious look and became taciturn. Humanity is sick, kill them all. Visenya blinked. Was she hearing voices? Is something bothering you, Visenya? Humming back to reality, Visenya turned to Naruto, who was standing in the doorway. Sarah was admiring the extravagance of the house, her jaw unhinged. High on the plateau between the river valleys stood a modest house made of wood and glass. The walls were latticed with ivy and reached up to the balconies. Inside the sanctuary was an atrium with spiral staircases, supported by the finest oak beams. A glass dome on the roof allowed a column of light to enter the hall, but what caught Sarah's attention was the arch above it. The stonework was carved with hundreds of dragons, each more impressive and spectacular than the last. "Do you two live here?" Sarah asked. Naruto smiled. Visenya didn't like living like a hermit, so I built this place for her. Now you'll stay here with her too. How are you? What about me? Naruto blinked. You said this house was built for Lady Visenya. Sarah tilted her head, confusion clouding her face. You never mention anything about yourself. At that, Naruto chuckled. The entire dragon fortress is my home. Sarah's mouth formed a silent circle. Anyway, Visenya will show you around. Once you're settled in, she'll give you a tour of the dragon fortress. Well, you won't be able to see everything, but you'll get a rough picture. Naruto smiled. The magical saturation is dense here. Your body will be intoxicated by its power. Strengthening your core, your skin, and your senses. The atmosphere in the dragon fortress is nourishing and cleanses. You'll grow stronger here. Giving his limbs a good stretch, Naruto smiled at Visenya. Take Sarah to the sword tomb once you finish the tour with her. She desperately needs a new weapon. Sarah blinked. What's wrong with my gun? Naruto's attention dropped to Sarah's waist, amusement flashing in his ocean blue eyes as he examined the thin blade. It looked like it could snap like a twig. Shaking his head, Naruto joked. You won't be able to intimidate a dragon with that thing of yours. Trust me. I'll see you there. Quick on her tiptoes, Visenya approached Naruto, took his face in her hands, cupped his cheeks tenderly, and kissed him. Violently. Desire exploded in her as she moaned embarrassingly when he kissed her back. The sound of her passion reverberated through their bodies. Visenya made sure to glance sideways at Sarah, as if marking Naruto as her property. And then she broke the kiss. Tucking a strand of lustrous golden hair behind Visenya's ear, Naruto's handsome features softened into a warm smile. We should exercise restraint, my dear. Of course, master. Visenya winked at him. In the blink of an eye, Naruto's form dissipated in a puff of smoke. Welcome to Dragon Keep. First rule of the game. No wandering anywhere unsupervised. See that mountain over there? Visenya pointed at the white-peaked mountain from afar. Don't let its beauty fool you. The entire mountain is the nest of an ancient dragon. It has many names. Delameter, Jormungand, Midgardsormr. The master said it was far older than the dawn of the first men. It has a jaw that can devour a whale. Sarah gasped. Wow. That's really huge. Yes. Visenya opened her hands and showed off her alpaca farm. One of the alpacas galloped up to Visenya and nudged her gently on the shoulder. It looked like a grinning brown ball of cloud. And this is my pet project. They're not food, mind you. Vhagar is their adoptive mother, so anyone who messes with my alpaca messes with my dragon. You've been warned. The fact that Vhagar had taken on the mantle of surrogate mother to the alpacas spoke volumes about the dragon's intelligence. It would seem that a dragon's maternal instinct could override its urge to kill. How fascinating. However, Sarah realized something was off. Sure, alpacas were cute fluffy things with a hint of pony, but it was a surprise that they weren't considered livestock. Judging by the horde of dragons she saw flying through the sky, she reckoned they must eat a lot. Don't judge. I love alpaca. And you should too. Visenya pointed to a tree. And that's another tree. And another. And another. Oh. We're standing on grass. The sky is blue. You don't have that in Essos. That kissing trick back then, the palpable sarcasm and subtle venom in Visenya's tone were all signs. It didn't take a genius to know that Visenya was afraid of being Sarah's friend. Sarah sighed. He doesn't seem interested in giving me a tour. No, I don't like him. In fact, I don't like you either. Visenya snapped. I was Naruto's first disciple. His only disciple. We understood each other. I was there for him when he needed me. And he was there for me. Things were going great. And then you showed up, tried to kill him, and failed miserably. Oh, Sarah could smell the jealousy from miles away. Maybe a little teasing could break the ice between them, or so she thought. Do you think I'm going to steal him from you? Psychotic rage flashed in Visenya's violet eyes, and she drew the dark sister. In a split second, Visenya was behind Sarah. Cold Valyrian steel met a sumptuous neck. I believe a formal introduction is in order. I am Visenya Targaryen, conqueror of Westeros and servant of Dragonkeep. I tend cattle, clean caves, and also enjoy killing ignorant, self-centered idiots like you. Unfazed by the murderous threat, Sarah responded with a fearless smile. I apologize if you felt threatened by me. However, I'm not deluded into thinking I'm better than you. You're clearly more powerful than I am. And you have a dragon. It won't even be an even fight. Visenya's eyes hardened. 1. Don't presume I'm threatened by the likes of you. 2. Don't presume you'll ever be better than me. A fight. How dare Prey think it's worthy of fighting me? We share the same water and ancestry, making us nothing alike. Though a cow and a snake drink water, one only produces milk and the other produces venom. Which do you think you are? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. A perfect account of what Visenya embodied. Frankly, Sarah never underestimated Visenya's prowess. Tough, and dangerous, the Targaryen praised Visenya as a no-nonsense heroine who was feared even by Aegon Targaryen himself. Now, I don't care who the hell you are or where you come from. And I'm sure as hell not interested in your life story. All I need from you is your dedication and devotion to Dragon Keep. If you understand, you can swim back to where we found you. Do I make myself clear, Sarah Targaryen? Sarah had met many selfish jerks in her life, but Visenya sure took the cake. That said, Sarah knew she still had a lot to learn from Visenya. The last thing she wanted was to piss her off too much. Yes, my lady. I apologize for my mistake. Excellent. Visenya smiled, as if she wasn't just threatening to gut Sarah, and withdrew her sword. Now that we've established our boundaries, let's continue the tour. If you must know, the Dragon Fortress is guarded by the Yonvyate. That means. Poor Dragon Emperor. Sarah chimed in, to Visenya's surprise. I studied the ancient language of the Asahi a few years ago. As much as I don't concern myself with other people's affairs, I will have you know that I once fought alongside 2 of my best lieutenants and never learned their names. Visenya walked beside Sarah toward the forest. Alduin guards the north of Dragon Keep, which makes him one of the Yonvyate. Pray you don't run into the rest of the group. They aren't very friendly. In fact, Alduin tolerates us because his respect for the master trumps his hatred for all else. When will I get my dragon? Visenya raised an eyebrow and resisted the urge to roll her eyes. You speak of dragon bonding as if it's a ritual to control them. It's a relationship. It involves mutual respect. When the time comes and you find your destined dragon, it will all make sense. Pitter-patter. The rain had stopped, but the granite sky still cast a pall of shadows over Dragon Fortress. Naruto sat with one knee tucked to his chest, a dozen baby dragons nestled around his lap. While their mother was out hunting, he would stop by to keep the defenseless hatchling safe. A kaleidoscope of white and violet butterflies swirled in the air, performing their hypnotic ritual. Time seemed to stand still, and the world became a monochrome dome. The voice, saccharine and melodic, yet so painful at the same time, echoed inside the cavern. "You look happier, Naruto-kun." How could he forget that voice? The voice he was in love with. A voice that once gave him a reason to live and made him strong. It was bittersweet when it lasted, and Naruto looked down, shadows masking his eyes. Am I? It's time to move. But how? The pain never went away. Sitting on the highest mountain peak, basking in the warmth of the summer sun, stealing kisses as she giggled, and watching the sunrise replace the moon, it was beautiful. Irreplaceable. Like a beautiful dream. And now she was gone. Her happiness, given to her like a blessing, was taken away so cruelly. You know I can't be happier without you. Fall in love with someone new. Guilt had consumed him. There was no way to absolve himself of his actions. He had murdered the woman he loved. A selfless woman who had loved him unconditionally and believed in him, even when no one else did. For the sake of humanity's survival, he did what no one else could bear. Perhaps that's why he didn't dare concern himself with the plight of men. Was it really worth it? Trade my life for a billion innocent lives. You know that answer better than I do, Naruto-kun. However, at what cost? Deep down in his heart, all he wanted was closure. To hold her once more, feel the warmth of her skin, absorb the lavender scent he was so familiar with, and tell her one last time that he loved her. Naruto opened his palm and watched as a white butterfly unfurled its wings. If you truly love me, then find happiness. As the passage of time resumed its flow, a warm breeze blew across Naruto's face, thick with the scent of damp leaves and last night's storm. And then a feeling of foreboding struck him. Naruto cursed. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. The forest of death, though antiquated and otherworldly, wasn't as sinister as it looked, Sarah thought to herself. The trees were centuries old, if their mottled bark and spreading branches were anything to go by. She'd expected monsters lurking in the shadows, not scurrying rabbits and a river of living turquoise. Why is it called the Forest of Death? Because it's the region closest to the 14 Flames. Once upon a time, the 14 Flames were living mountains with veins of molten lava and hearts of fire, but the Dragon Warden came and extinguished the heat. Now, they lay dormant, waiting patiently for the end to come. And also, this forest is the nest of hundreds of dragons. You could say it's the most dangerous place in the world. Sarah gasped when she saw a dragon from afar. Its roar echoed across the hill and shook the puddle in the sodden earth. Flames belched from its nostrils as it called Visenya and Sarah's attention. Step back and this fellow will make you his lunch. That's Madara, the Dark One. His strength is roughly equal to Alduin's. The southern dragon keep is under his care. Visenya folded her hands. He has a nasty temper. Truly territorial by nature. He despises anything that comes near his territory. The only reason he isn't hostile is because he recognizes dragon keepers, so it's best to tread carefully. Sarah gazed at the magnificent beast before her. Men were born with an innate fear of calamity, but Sarah couldn't help but imagine riding Madara into battle. Suddenly, she could fight the hurricane. The exhilaration coursing through Sarah's veins made her realize one thing. She felt a connection with Madara. It was very much like a tug, like a tingling sensation that made his skin crawl, but no matter how subtle and horrible it was there. Instinctively, he drew his sword, much to Visenya's chagrin. What the hell are you doing? Give me back that sword. I'm going to make Madara mine. Sarah turned and shot Visenya a smile. Fool. Can't you possibly think you can take on a dragon? Everyone has to start somewhere. Wish me luck. Fearlessly, and to Visenya's dismay, Sarah let out a war cry and charged blindly at Madara. That crazy hitch. Visenya steeled her nerves and wrinkled her nose. This wasn't going to end well for either of them. At first, Madara paid no attention to Sarah. After all, for an all-powerful dragon, what could a mere mortal do? When she leaped into the sky, raised her sword in the air, and slammed it down on Madara's black scales, the line between impertinence and transgression had been crossed. Sarah gasped as her sword shattered like glass. If not for her somersaults, Madara's tail would have crushed her. A million simulations rushed through Visenya's mind. Run, avoid Madara's devastating attacks, grab Sarah, and flee. Damn it. Even she wasn't strong enough to go toe-to-toe with a dragon of Madara's caliber. If she survived this, she was going to. Not. Visenya's eyes widened. Let that hitch die. That haunting, eerie voice was icy and deadly. Was it a hallucination? The plume of black smoke erupted from Madara's jaw. Suddenly, his eyes radiated a brilliant blue. Then, the smoke ignited into hellish flames, burning and devouring everything at random. Sarah involuntarily took a few steps back. It wouldn't be that difficult to stay out of the raging inferno's reach, but things escalated quickly after that. The fire concentrated in a lightning bolt of pandemonium and struck the ground, opening a deep furrow in the earth as it continued to advance. Trees and rocks vaporized in an instant. A flash of bright light momentarily blinded Sarah, who had to shield her eyes with her forearm. All she could hear were deafening explosions detonating around her. When he managed to open one eye with a crack, his eyes opened wide. Naruto stood protectively in front of her, his outstretched hand pressed against Madara's snout. "I told you, didn't I? Your weapon won't intimidate a dragon. You're not ready to face Madara yet. Yo." In the midst of his rampage, Madara had lost his sanity. All he saw was red. With ferocious intent, Madara slashed his claw at Naruto, shocking Sarah. Everything went to hell afterward. Madara no longer recognized Naruto. All he wanted was blood and carnage. "Wake up, Madara." Naruto thrust his fist forward, his luminous eyes lighting up. A blast of air hit the dragon, disorienting it. "Run back to Visenya. You'll get in the way." Sarah's ashen face gaped in terror. "What are you waiting for? Go now." Naruto barked before raising his fist. As if on cue, a myriad of serpentine tree roots burst out of the ground and wrapped around the aggravated dragon, effectively pinning it to the ground. Writhing and struggling, Madara tried to escape but to no avail. Naruto stroked Madara's muzzle, comforting him with reassuring whispers. "SHH, SHH. It's okay, Madara. No one's going to hurt you. Listen to my voice. It's me." Paralyzed with fear, Sarah couldn't move an inch, but she marveled at the fact that the dragon had ceased its aggression. Madara closed her eyes and moaned softly at Naruto's touch. "To tame a dragon like Madara, you must defeat it in combat. You're not ready yet." Naruto turned to Sarah and offered her a reassuring smile. "From now on, follow me." Sarah bit her lip. The journey to where they were supposed to go was filled with an awful silence. Was Naruto angry with her? Why didn't Visenya accompany them? Actually, she'd been distraught when he left. How strange. In hindsight, Sarah didn't know what prompted her to do what she did. Perhaps it was an impulse, but it felt right. Deep down in her heart, she knew Madara was her destined partner. "It seems you've taken a liking to Madara." Her cheeks burning, Sarah was embarrassed by what she'd done. "I didn't know how strong my hand was." "It's perfectly natural." Naruto smiled. "You reacted strongly to him. That's a good thing. Eventually, you'll be strong enough to subdue him. Until then, you have a lot of work to do." Sarah could perfectly visualize riding Madara across the horizon. It would be amazing to touch the emperor sky, a vast canvas of brilliant blue and white. High in the clouds, drenched in the warmth of the afternoon sun, watching flocks of birds migrating across continents. It would be a dream she prayed she would never wake from. Always. The joy of flying on the back of a dragon invigorated her. "I don't think I've told you this, but I'm truly grateful to be a part of something," Sarah whispered, her heart heavy. "I've heard many stories about you, you know. How the Dragon Warden founded Bravos. How the Dragon Warden restored Old Valyria. They sound more like fantasy to me, until I met you. I suppose all myths are a basis for reality." Naruto chuckled. "You flattered me. I'm just a glorified caretaker. Nothing more, nothing less. Why don't you tell me more about yourself? All I know is that you were once a princess." Where should I start, though? There was nothing grand about her story. Unlike Visenya, she wasn't a conqueror. Bards didn't sing about her. Hell, her name wouldn't be documented by Targaryen ancestry. She was nothing. My father used to walk me around his garden and tell me how much he wanted to change Flea Bottom for the better. That the people under his reign deserved better. The previous kings were too busy fighting for the throne that none of them saw a need to make the town a better place. Back then, I was a child, sheltered and naive. I didn't care about his ambitions. Or his people. Sarah gave a hollow laugh. All I cared about was which princes I wanted to marry. Life was ironic for Sarah. It took solitude to understand kinship and the deprivation of her royalty to appreciate its blessings. Fate worked in mysterious ways. When she found herself in a realm of mystery, she realized how ridiculously frivolous she used to be. Now, she saw the bigger picture. I didn't seek wealth or marriage, but a purpose. I believe I've found mine. Believe it or not, being a dragon warden isn't all it's cracked up to be. We have an important duty, not just to the dragons, but to all other creations. Can you imagine if the world could harness the power of the dragons? Naruto took Sarah's hand and led her across the log bridge. How tantalizingly close it was, however, was something of a puzzle to her. A riddle she very much wanted to explore and solve. The Targaryen only has a handful of dragons, and that was enough to conquer a continent. Have you considered using dragons to help the world? A cheerful laugh escaped his lips. Do you believe in the principle of causality? Sarah raised an eyebrow. Everything happens for a reason. My own strength invites challenge. Challenge breeds conflict. Conflict incites catastrophe. I've seen it, lived it, and suffered it. Humanity is not ready to learn more about the Dragon Keep. Naruto sighed. The seed of evil has been planted in the heart of humanity long before Westeros was born. What they do will always be the same. war, grape, destruction. Just to name a few. The Targaryens brought peace to Westeros, Sarah argued. How many wars were fought before the Targaryens united Westeros? How much blood was shed for the sake of peace? Naruto clicked his tongue and shook his head. Well, you hold a perspective of peace, those who suffered under the Targaryens saw only chaos. I will not take responsibility for humanity's ruin. Do you believe that? I know that. Naruto's voice was deep, his features inscrutable. I was born into a world where men could do many wondrous things and more. Things beyond your wildest imagination. Of course, nothing lives in perpetuity. Their extinction was inevitable. There was no savior to save them from their immolation. Humanity does not need a savior. We are our own salvation. Believe me when I say this, dragons and humanity should not coexist. I don't disagree. Naruto blinked. Isn't that right? The Senyu would have divulged a list of flaws in my claims and then scolded me for not giving a damn about humanity. Sarah shrugged. I'm not the Senya. While she lived as a warrior with a gentle upbringing, I was a slave. I've seen what power can do to a person. What's so different between slave masters and their slaves? They both breathe the same air. They both need water and food to survive. The difference is the despot has power and the rest have to suffer it. I agree with your statements. Men shouldn't keep dragons. A wry smile curled Naruto's lips, but he said nothing as they had reached their destination. A castle with scarred moss-covered walls stood atop a steep slope. Perhaps once an awe-inspiring fort, it was now battered helplessly by countless storms. The decrepit tower looked as if it would crumble at any moment. Broken gargoyles and dead trees flanked the cobblestone path that led to a colossal lattice gate. A disturbing wind blew past her, sending an eerie chill down Sarah's spine. This was the remnant of old Valyria. Once a symbol of prosperity, now a ruined city. Where are we going? There's a catacomb beneath this castle. That's where we're going. Catacomb? It will take you to Sword Grave. That's where we'll find your weapon. Once you're properly equipped, you'll be ready to take your oath. Sarah stiffened. My promise. To whom? To you? No. Naruto blinked. To Ghidorah, the mother of dragons. As they entered the old castle, only the slumbering fire of the torches brought some comfort to Sarah in the abysmal darkness. That, and the fact that she was walking closely behind the Almighty. As they descended the spiral of steps, Sarah found herself staring at Naruto's back with great interest. Destruction incarnate, yet humble to the bone and unfairly beautiful to boot. It all seemed so surreal to Sarah. Just a week ago, she was part of the Faceless Men, an assassin with a heart of stone. Now, she was tracking the most powerful man. When they reached the bottom of the lair, Sarah was shocked by the mountains of gold, jewels, and swords before her. Resting atop the treasure was a massive crimson-scaled dragon. Welcome to Sword Grave. This place is guarded by smog. Naruto casually approached the dragon and stroked its neck, which hummed at his delicate touch. All of these swords that have been here are made of the finest metallurgy this world has ever seen. The lords of Westeros and Essos would pay a fortune just to obtain one of these. They all have a story of their own. War, carnage, destruction. They've seen it all. And you want me to pick up one of the swords that are around here? Naruto looked at Sarah as if he'd just sprouted a second head. No, silly. You don't just pick up a sword as you please. You have to find it through your will. I will. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Forgive me, but I don't quite understand you. Sacrifice your blood on the pedestal before you. Sarah swallowed, bit her thumb, and placed it on the bronze pedestal. Close your eyes. Naruto instructed. Although worried, Sarah trusted him and did as she was told. You are born with a pool of arcane energy within you. Seek it out. It's there. Don't resist it. Sarah's face twisted. I can't. Yes, you can. Clear your thoughts. Don't be afraid. Sarah could feel an unnatural warmth within her fury, like a tempest that had been injected into her veins. The surge of power was invigorating, almost intoxicating, and far more dangerous. As her blood flowed through the cracks in the stone floor, tendrils of crimson light formed into one of the thousands of blades. Screams of terror and anguish echoed through the chamber, startling Sarah. Amidst the demonic and distorted echoes, a name occurred to him. Brightrare, she whispered softly. The sword called to her, its rage welling within her. She couldn't contain the cauldron of anger and power, but she ground her teeth to resist the burn. Wisps of luminescent smoke radiated from the sword, Brightrare, forcing her to grasp it. A few decades ago, a fool named King Tommen Lannister brought 100 ships to plunder the wealth and secrets of Dragonhold. I killed him, along with his men. Their souls were cursed to wander the seas, mainly because they were unwilling to move on. Now, there is Ide within that cursed sword. If you claim Brightrare as your own, then its might and terror are your responsibility. As Sarah grasped the hilt of Brightrare, her body was ablaze with unholy energy. With Brightrare in hand, she threw it into the sky. White lightning erupted from the blade, burning and piercing everything around it. Her muscles were bursting with energy, her blood thundering in her ears. A terrible yet wonderful sensation. Was this what power felt like? Naruto narrowed his eyes and raised an open palm. The swords trembled, their sinister whispers filling the air, but one blade flew into Naruto's grasp. This is Take Mikazuchi, a sword forged to slay gods. Naruto gave his sword a beautiful, intricate and sinuous blade a casual stroke, unleashing overwhelming pressure that sent tiny fractures rippling across the cavern walls like forked lightning. Heart racing, Sarah could taste the sweet nectar of evil emanating from Take Mikazuchi. It was safe to say that every sword buried in this gloomy cave had seen its fair share of blood and gore before its solitude. Now, let us dance. Sarah, empowered, lunged at Naruto, her sword raised. Naruto parried the flurry of blows that came his way, effortlessly evading all the strikes that were meant to decapitate him. Swiftly, Naruto spun at Sarah, swinging his sword and clashing brutally with hers. The sheer force of the impact sent Sarah shooting back. Is that all you've got, my dear? Pain shot through Sarah's shoulders. The thought of Naruto suppressing his Herculean power almost made her nauseous. Sarah stood and watched solemnly. Though her vision was swimming and blood was oozing from the side of her face, she realized it. A head-on fight, especially against someone of Naruto's caliber, was simply suicide. There must be other ways to beat him. And then he realized how dark the cave was. A sly smile tugged at Sarah's pink lips before she infused her energy into her sword. A blinding white light flooded the cave before a bolt of lightning tore its way towards Naruto. As anticipated, the piercing light had blurred Naruto's vision. An opening. In his moment of distraction, Sarah seized that window of opportunity and dashed towards him. Impressive. With his eyes closed, he deftly grasped Sarah's wrist, halting her momentum and assault completely. You assume that, without one of my senses active, you'll have a chance. You've used your environment to your advantage. A strategist and a combat specialist. Spectacular. Sarah stumbled in shock. But how? My hearing is as good as my eyesight, if not better. I can hear your footsteps and your heartbeat at the same time. Sarah's lips pursed for a moment but then blossomed into a wide smile. How did I do? Beyond expectations. Although you're not yet good enough to fight mid-air, with proper training, you'll be a force to be reckoned with. The white-hot fire scorched her cheeks. Now that her adrenaline subsided, she felt carnal desires welling up within her. The surge of energy she had just experienced was taxing her body and she needed to do something to release her tension. Urgently. Panting lasciviously, Sarah looked up and saw his enigmatic unconscious smile. His juicy, sculpted lips, those burning, determined eyes, and his seductive charisma truly made Sarah feel hot and bothered. Oh, I recognize that look. Naruto joked. Visenya was like that when she first awakened her powers. I think you should. Unable to contain the dark desires coiling in her stomach, Sarah leaped toward Naruto, her tongue finding his. But only for a moment. With great will, Naruto pulled back, much to Sarah's chagrin. Relentless, she wrapped her hands around his neck and gave him a passionate wild kiss. She needed to feel this magnificent numbing pleasure. That was all she could muster before darkness took over. Sarah opened her eyes and stared at an unfamiliar chandelier. The softness of the mattress, the scent of lavender wafting through the air, and the music of crashing waves caught her attention. She got out of bed and looked frantically around. What the hell happened? Her memory was fuzzy at best. In her peripheral, she noticed Brighter leaning against the wall. All he could remember was his battle with Naruto and. Taking her mouth to contain her gasp, Sarah felt her legs weak and jittery. Her heart rate spiked. Did she try to grape Naruto? Putting two and two together, Sarah deduced that Naruto hadn't taken advantage of her intoxicated state. Getting out of her bed, Sarah calmly approached the window. Wow. The sunset. A mix of coral, blue, and fiery orange made for such an amazing sight that it nearly took Sarah's breath away. From her balcony, she could see the vast ocean where the water was crystal clear. Dragon's Keep was truly a paradise. When his eyes narrowed, he noticed a hot spring right outside the house. That wasn't the only thing that caught his attention. Someone was in it. A peculiar idea occurred to him. Visenya was disturbed. Since returning to Dragon Keep, she had been hearing voices. Traitorous and evil, the voices whispered the vilest things to her. She seduced Naruto, destroyed Dragon Keep, led the Legion of Death, and brought fire and blood to the world. Among the sinister echoes, one name stood out. The guy Otsutsuki. Where have you heard that name before? Soaking in the hot springs had calmed her nerves. Disciplined and sharp as she could be, she had fallen prey to the voices. If it weren't for Naruto, Sarah might already be dead. Her loyalty to the Dragon Fortress and her love for Naruto trumped everything else. No insidious voice was going to kill her, she wouldn't allow it. Deep in thought, Visenya didn't notice someone standing behind her. A pair of hands suddenly covered her eyes, startling her. Guess who? It took all of Visenya's self-control not to murder Sarah on impulse. To steady her breathing, Visenya felt her eyelid flutter. I'm glad you're awake, Sarah. They say Targaryen princesses are immaculate and incredibly beautiful. With a sharp wit and a vivacious personality, Sarah was a survivor and everything Visenya wasn't. Yin and yang. Oil and water, perhaps. Yet those were qualities that made a good dragon warden. When Visenya turned around, her personal space was crudely violated by a very naked Sarah. You haven't given your virginity to Naruto, have you? What in the world? How did Sarah know? That abrupt and inappropriate question caught Visenya off guard. Visenya felt her face heat up, unable to hesitate for an answer. A mischievous smile appeared on Sarah's lips when she realized Visenya was desperately trying to maintain a placid composure. You know, when I was in Volantis, I was very good at pleasing women. So much so that almost all of my guests were wealthy widows from Pentos. Sarah traced Visenya's jawline with her finger. I know you love Naruto. And he loves you too. But he didn't want to consummate. Something's holding him back. Personal demons, I guess. Visenya let out a breath she'd been holding and gritted her teeth. You should mind your own business. Oh, I am. I know he's left you needy. As much as Visenya hated to admit it, her hormones were racing. How many nights had she fantasized about a night of passion with her beloved Naruto? Before Visenya realized it, Sarah was nearly on top of her. Things escalated far too quickly. Sarah grabbed Visenya's cascading golden hair and pulled down, lifting her face and bringing her lips down on hers. Visenya tried to resist, but couldn't help but moan into their pleading kiss, opening Sarah's tongue. This was all Sarah needed to take full advantage. At first, Visenya showed some struggle, trying to push Sarah away, but when her tongue tentatively caressed hers, she melted and joined her in a slow, erotic dance. I can be your passion's slave. Sarah gasped when she broke their kiss, her voice husky. You don't need to commit to me. You don't need to love me. All I ask is that you let me help you. Part of Visenya wanted to run away, but she found herself caught in Sarah's charm. That was true. Naruto left her wanting and hungry, but never satisfied. He wanted her to be with Naruto first, but he had proven elusive. The unbridled desires had turned Visenya's violet eyes into orbs of the brightest fire, something that had caught Sarah's attention. Visenya's breath hitched as she felt Sarah's hand exploring her toned stomach and womanhood. Suddenly, Sarah thrust her fingers inside Visenya, earning a delicious, sensual cry. The proud and powerful Visenya Targaryen had succumbed to the pleasure, her mouth viciously attacked by Sarah. How uncharacteristic of you. That damned voice again. It snapped Visenya out of her stupor and gave her the strength to push Sarah away. Covering her mouth in anguish, Visenya stared at Sarah with wide eyes. This is wrong. Wrong? In Sarah's world, only those with power were always right. Everything else was just a misconception, warped by morality and the lack thereof. Licking her lips, Sarah clicked her tongue disapprovingly. And what is right? Just a second ago, you didn't hesitate to give in to me. I must go. Hurriedly, Visenya left the hot spring, throwing a robe around her to cover her modesty before trotting back to the mansion. Playing God required one to become familiar with the devil. You could say that Naruto was a sort of god in the Dragon Fortress, and if he so chose, he could very well be the god of the world. The truth was that hell was empty, and all the demons roamed the world. That's what I tell myself when I see the suffering men endure and do nothing. I don't interfere, because it's their choice. Who am I to take away their freedom? Naruto paced back and forth in a cave, where the wall arched 30 meters up to giant stalactites, and the rest was impenetrable darkness. The only ray of light allowed into the massive underground chamber was the gaping hole at the cave's mouth. You know, there was a time when I actually sympathized with you. I saw what you saw. I understood your worldview. You did what you thought was best for humanity. That was your narrative, Kagaya. Tied to a cross was the gaunt form of Kagaya Otsutsuki, the harbinger of the apocalypse and destroyer of worlds. Her sinister eyes, filled with absolute hatred for her nemesis, turned intensely on Naruto, who sneered to himself. The people around me saw only the good deeds I'd amassed, like an elegant wall I built to hide the monster inside me. Visenya thought she was a conqueror, but she hasn't seen half the things I've done. Whirling the dagger around his finger, Naruto stopped in his tracks. I'm capable of many things. Even if it means throwing away my memories. The happy ones. The sad ones. Do you know why I didn't? It was a rhetorical question. Kagaya couldn't respond verbally. All she could manage was a limited facial expression, courtesy of Naruto's seals. She clutched her chest, repressed sadness appearing on her face. This pain I felt. It's all I have left of Hinata. Naruto's eyes scanned his surroundings, as if remembering something distant. This was meant to be a grave for the two of us. If we were to awaken, then the 14 flames, the mountains I raised with my own bare hands, would consume what remained of us in a fiery hell. A fitting punishment for the sins we have committed. And yet, the many-faced god refused to claim us. Immortality is truly a curse. And a form of punishment for you. Amusement flashed in Naruto's eyes as he smiled at Kagaya's sorry state. It only infused Kagaya with exasperation, but she couldn't even shout a protest. Pity, really. Oh, don't be angry. You deserve it. You took everything from me. I took your eternity. A fitting exchange, wouldn't you agree? Stalking toward the cross, Naruto hid his dagger. I won't say I'm forgiving, but I forgive what I can. The genocide of my people. turning half the world against me. Using my friends to get to me. But I will never forgive those who hurt my family. Tears streamed down Naruto's cheeks as he glared at Kagaya with immense hatred. You killed Hinata. You stole her face. And you went, he snarled. You went into my children's room, you woke them up in their sleep just so they could see their mother's face killing them. The trauma nearly brought Naruto to his knees, but he stood his ground. Steady. Unwavering. Calm. Then I realized something. You claim to despise humanity, yet you behave exactly like them. You murder and torment those who challenge your supremacy. Just like humans. In essence, I didn't hate you for who you are. How could I? It would be hypocritical of me. After all, like you, I was born a monster. No, I hate you for who you choose to be. And what it could become. Naruto turned toward the exit. You kept me in my hell. I keep you in yours. And I'll continue to keep you imprisoned in this dark, vivid nightmare. In the end, you become nothing. Not even part of a story. No one will ever know who you are. Forgotten. Rotting in this shit. Kagaya couldn't either utter a moan. She was crucified on the cross, motionless but furious. As Naruto exited the cave, he took one last look behind his shoulder. Instead of anger and discouragement, Naruto saw a flash of triumph in Kagaya's eyes. It was as if I had won. Chapter 5. King Jihuri's Targaryen, first of his name, King of the Andals, Roiner, and the first man, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm, was weary beyond measure. Though he had done so much for his people, guilt and grief had seeped deep into his bones and blood. For the sake of peace, he had done what no father should. Turn his most beloved daughter into a martyr. The Faith of the Seven, led by sunken grey cunts, plotted an uprising, promising bloodshed if the Targaryens' incestuous practices were not banished. The city would be sacked, the temples razed, and senseless blood would be spilled. Sacrilege would unfold upon these hallowed grounds, they chanted. It was Jihuri's duty as monarch to prevent a calamity from occurring, so he did what he had to. However, word had come that his beloved daughter, Sarah Targaryen, was very much alive and wandering the free cities. Septon Barth, the hand of the king and a faithful friend of Jihuri's, was delighted when he was confided the news. Barth diligently sent scouts across Essos to validate the credibility of the information. For once in a long time, Jihuri's felt joy. Butterflies danced in his stomach as he waited anxiously. Terror gripped Jihuri's when the news arrived. Sarah was a slave in Volantis. Alysanne Targaryen, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, nearly suffered a seizure when her husband broke the news to her. The story was so ugly and harrowing that it felt as if a fever were breaking within him. If not for Barth's guidance, Jihuri's would give in to his murderous impulse and burn Volantis to the ground. Patience, Barth reminded him. To unravel Sarah's whereabouts, they needed time. The gold worked wonders. It would be like finding a needle in a haystack if Alysanne hadn't hired hundreds of mercenaries to find Sarah. After months of fruitless searching, they finally found something peculiar. The story of the Dragon Warden. According to Barth, Bravos worshipped the Dragon Warden and had even erected a colossal monument, the Titan of Bravos, to commemorate a legend from folklore. Jihuri's wasted no time consulting his library. For days, the king isolated himself among a mountain of books, trying to find some clues about the Dragon Warden. Why did he sound so familiar? What was the connection between the Dragon Warden and Sarah? Finally, in the most unlikely of contents, he found something that caught his attention. In the lore recorded by his ancestor, King Aegon Targaryen, the Dragon Warden was a deity of all Valyria who took Visenya Targaryen as his servant and wife. At first glance, it seemed more like a fairy tale than reality, conjured by a madman. However absurdly conceived, all fictions, like all great stories, were rooted in truth. What if the Dragon Warden existed? He's been secluded here for weeks, Your Grace. Barth sank into the oak chair and examined the rows of ornate bookshelves housing thousands of books. Some of the collections were covered in dust. Why don't we go for a walk, huh? I can take some lads with us to do some hunting. Jihuri's pinched the bridge of his nose, as if nursing his aching headache. What do you think of the Dragon Warden, old friend? A story we tell our children at night, Lamano replied matter-of-factly. Every scout sent to Essos came back with similar messages. And they all mention the Dragon Warden. If we delay this long enough, I know we can find a breakthrough. I just need time. If I may, some of the explorers claimed that the Dragon Keeper is a man who can take the form of a dragon. The Bravosi even built shrines to worship him. Now, tell me, how outrageous do you think that sounds? Barth's joke had left something to be desired because Jihuri's was frowning at him. What? I'm trying to be rational here. Are you trying to claim that magic of that caliber exists? Before the Targaryens united the Seven Kingdoms, dragons were also considered myths. The king sighed. Perhaps we are not seeing what we have before us. And what lies before us? I know this may sound crude, but as a friend, I feel I have to say this. Barth clenched his fist. Whatever he wanted to say, it wasn't going to be pretty. There's also the possibility that Sarah is dead. Jihuri's stiffened. How dare you? Listen to me, Jihuri's. Sarah fled the faith over a decade ago. No one knows if the rumors are true or not. Besides, you can't believe some story Egan fabricated to cover up the fact that he killed his own sister. No. Jihuri's looked away. Egan Targaryen will never kill Visenya Targaryen. That is ridiculous. Is it? Barth shook his head and leaned back in his seat. Old Valyria is a wasteland now. Habitable. Any sailor worth his salt would tell you that. You expect me to believe that a man who can take the form of a dragon kidnapped a princess of the Targaryen dynasty and was allowed to live? Are you unfamiliar with your ancestry? When Rhaenys Targaryen was killed by the Dornish, Egan set fire to everything that belonged to the Dorns. He retaliated with fire and blood for Rhaenys, so why didn't he do the same for Visenya? Does that make any sense to you? Perhaps the Dragon Warden proved to be a formidable foe. Jihuri's replied, uncertainty in his voice. Egan might be a conqueror, but he was not impulsive in his battles. Perhaps Egan did not want to anger the Dragon Warden. Barth exhaled a deep sigh. I know the loss of your daughter has devastated you. I wouldn't go so far as to say I know what it feels like, because I don't, and I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy. Jihuri's, please, this is killing you. It's killing your wife as well. I don't want to see my friend suffer from heartbreak. This is pointless. Useless. Rage flashed across Jihuri's wrinkled face like a comet. Catching his breath, he slammed the book shut. What if Sarah is really alive? What if she's out there? Barth, my son needs me. Then answer me this. Barth narrowed his eyes, the cloying sweetness in his voice gone. Each articulated word grew heavy, draining Jihuri's of blood with every blow. Assuming she's alive. Assuming we find her. Do you think she'll forgive you? For what you did? The king's eyes widened. His mouth opened, struggling to find words, but none escaped his dry lips. Have you seen bloodhounds before, your grace? Jihuri's frowned, but said nothing. He felt numb, sterile as winter, and kept his gaze fixed on the parchment on the table. They make excellent pets. My brother used to have one. Oliver, he called him. Oliver was always envious of the freedom wild rabbits have. One day, my brother brought the bloodhound along to hunt. Oliver was always excited about hunting, but my brother never allowed him to. He said he didn't want Oliver to be ferocious, but isn't it a dog's nature to hunt? At that, Barth sneered. But one day, my brother wanted to test a theory. So he took his dog off the leash. In that instant, Oliver saw a wild rabbit. I'd never seen anything so beautiful as that dog running. Chasing his dream, I supposed. Until he finally caught it. But to my brother's horror, Oliver killed the rabbit. He tore it to pieces. That dog spent his entire life trying to catch that thing. Now he had no idea what to do. Everything that had happened at Dragon's Keep was akin to a fantasy for Sarah Targaryen. Every waking moment was an adventure, as she was always learning something new and exciting. Dragons weren't just beasts. Empathy, intelligence, resourcefulness. They were capable of so much more, but their loyalty to Naruto was second to none. In this realm of great splendor, Naruto was a god, revered and feared. Perhaps, in retrospect, Sarah found solace in living with a deity. As the breeze passed, a smile crept across her face. On her journey of self-discovery, she had realized that being a dragon warden didn't reveal her identity. Sarah already knew what she was. In Dragon's Keep, she glimpsed what she could be. Sarah would often find herself wandering the deserted shore and sitting on the rocks, the sea spraying at her feet and her eyes fixed on the horizon. It was her sanctuary, a place where she could let the ocean carry her thoughts away. When Naruto sat down beside her, Sarah wasn't surprised. After all, the entire dragon fortress belonged to her. I see you like the view. Quite amazing, isn't it? My father used to tell me to be content with my lot in life. That the world doesn't owe me anything. Sarah turned to him. Naruto's bright eyes shone like fire, and his hair was like sunshine on water. I wasn't content, obviously. So I left. I tried to fight my fate, a foolhardy attempt. I almost died doing it. But I think I'm content now. Naruto chuckled. You know that natural selection brings sentient life into this world using a single methodology. Failure. Our mistakes either bring us closer to our destiny or spiral us downward. You've encountered many obstacles in your path. I am glad you found your place among the dragons and cattle. Suddenly, Naruto gently cupped Sarah's chin with his index finger and thumb. But never be content with what you are. You are beginning to uncover the mystery of this world. Character is not built through a time of content and peace. It is forged from the fires of danger and hardship. Content only brings stagnation. Stagnation is the bane of all existence. In moments like these, Sarah could hear her pulse, strong in her ears. Burning desires raged inside her stomach. A broken, desecrated, and abused woman shouldn't deserve the love of a god, but she could dream. Deep down, Sarah knew she had no right to claim it. But fate had intertwined their destinies. Rare moments like these, when another soul plunged near hers as the stars grazed the earth once a year, were hard to come by. Such a constellation was he to her. As the breeze passed, trickling over her skin, she ran her fingers over his hand, which was caressing her warm cheek. I always wonder about something. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Ask. You're compassionate toward the lives in Dragon's Keep but indifferent to those outside this realm. The contrast doesn't quite fit the character. If I cry every time a mortal dies, I'll drown in a week. Amusement flashed in his storm-lit eyes. No matter how vividly men live their lives, no matter what wonders they accomplish, no matter what horrors they've caused, in the end, they all turn to dust and smoke. Meanwhile, I outlive them. This generation. The next. Another 100 years. It meant nothing to me. Like a heartbeat. Am I just a heartbeat to you? Naruto didn't say anything, but he brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Sometimes, Sarah caught him staring. Intensity settled across his face before he began asking indirect questions. It was only a principle she answered with riddles, drawing out his frustration and intrigue. A door that didn't open when knocked was a novelty in its own right. She'd seen the jagged scars on his bare, muscled back when he chopped down trees like a ruthless lumberjack. As unfair as it may be, Sarah always investigates his scars. Each one had their own story, and he would tell it to her in the light of day. Often, he shared his heroic tales beneath the shade of an apple tree, where the grass was warmed by the sun, and the scent enveloped him as he slept. She would lie beside him and look at him asleep, heavy with murmurs and trembling on his face. Her heart ached, for he was going to war every time he closed his eyes. If it weren't for his tendency to disappear for a couple of months without warning, Sarah was sure she would have made Naruto hers. Apparently, Naruto lived within the Dragon Fortress region that was forbidden even to Visenya, as the giants residing there were as old as the dawn of Valyria and had no love for humanity. I think Visenya is waiting for your duel. Let's not keep her waiting, shall we? Sarah nodded and followed Naruto into the hills. You're late. Visenya's voice was like sharp metal as her gaze pierced Sarah. I hope you don't go back to being idle somewhere. The Targaryens imagined Visenya as a blade sharpened to the fineness of a hair, so delicate that one wouldn't even know if one had been cut. She was burning with certainty, and before her all the tainted scum of the world must cower. Armed and armored, Visenya was a goddess of war, always ready for battle. Sarah gave a mock bow. My apologies. Seeing that there was no one to protect our shores, I offered my most humble contribution. Unsheathing Dark Sister from her waist, Visenya took a stance, a confident smile playing on her lips. There are no excuses. Your tardiness deserves punishment. Valyrian steel was spell-forged, which explained its impeccable durability. With the doom of Valyria, the secret of such arcane metallurgy was lost. Valyrian steel was said to be more valuable than gold itself, not for its fineness or delicate craftsmanship, but for its latent ability to channel magic. Harnessing magic required arduous training and years of study. No one without proper guidance should dabble in the embodiment of chaos. The fundamental planes from which a caster could draw magic were the elements: earth, water, air, fire, and lightning. Naruto wielded magic as an art, transcending the very fabric of reality to create things of wonder and beauty. However, in the hands of the evil, it became a primal force that could doom the world. Punishment. Sarah let out a dramatic gasp. She was a talented actress, apparently. Oh, my. Why don't we stop fighting each other and make the most of the time we have together? Maybe we can even invite Naruto to join. Shameless, as always. That's not what you told me last night. The pink blush touched Visenya's cheeks. We won't talk about that here. Ready your sword. Sarah brandished Brighter. What are you talking about? I was born ready. No, you're not. Naruto decided to make himself known as he emerged from the forest, holding a half-eaten apple. Today, you two will have a fight against me. As Visenya stroked her fingers over Dark Sister, the runes etched into the sword glowed an ominous blue. White mist, cold as the bleakest winter night, hissed from Dark Sister. Fingers of frost spread like a plague, covering the great oaks and the forest floor around Visenya. What's the wager? I will grant the winner one wish, as long as it is within my power and ability. With that, Visenya and Sarah's eyes lit up. A wish. They said in unison. Naruto nodded and took a bell out of his pocket. The rule is simple. By sunset, you have to snatch this bell from me. However, there's only one bell, Sarah noted. Precisely. Naruto smiled. However, if you fail, you'll be polishing every sword in Swordgrave. It seems there's no room for failure. Rest assured. I don't need until sunset to grab that bell. Visenya gave her sword a practice swing. Don't get in my way, Sarah. I was just about to say the same thing to you as well. Suddenly, but not unexpectedly, Sarah lunged at Naruto, her sword raised. The element of surprise didn't work on Naruto, because as his adrenaline kicked in, everything around him slowed down. Taking a step back, Naruto effortlessly evaded Sarah's assault. Big mistake. Livid black clouds blocked out the sun, churning and swirling like a vortex above their target. Blue lightning radiated from Sarah's voluptuous body, allowing the transcendental energy within her to course through her veins. Sarah offered Naruto a triumphant smile and a cheeky wink. Blinding white light enveloped the land before the heavens rained down spears of lightning upon Naruto. Reacting to the momentum, Naruto instinctively flipped out of harm's way but fell onto the next ledge. His feet were frozen. Their teamwork was impeccable, Naruto reflected. A barrage of swords, conjured from the ice, rained down upon Naruto. It wasn't something he hadn't anticipated. Colossal roots sprouted from the soaked ground, forming an arch to protect Naruto from the rain of death. Is that all you have? Not yet. Adrenaline coursed through Visenya's entire being as she raised her hands, causing a blizzard. Sheltering beneath the safety of the trees, Naruto didn't really see what Visenya was up to, but the sudden, deafening, icy silence prickled his skin. Sensing danger, Naruto emerged from his hiding place, sucked in a breath of frigid air, and looked up. An iceberg the size of an asteroid was descending on him. I just have to ask, huh? Naruto clicked his tongue, but smiled nonetheless. Visenya had come a long way. It would be an insult to her effort if he took her for granted. A golden glow, bright as the sun, lit up from Naruto's body, enveloping him like the armor of a valiant knight. He raised his fist, a crimson glow lighting up his slit-like eyes. Scorching steam roared to life, escaping from the corner of Naruto's lips as he threw a punch at the sky. A shockwave explosion, so absolute and devastating, erupted, pulverizing the giant ice to pieces. The dark clouds covering Dragon Keep were swept away by the unholy force in the blink of an eye. Warmth and sunshine had returned to the prairie. Visenya and Sarah stood their ground, but fear and awe thundered in their veins. You won't get anywhere if you don't do your best. Naruto smiled. Well, we're at it, why don't we begin your dragon trial, Visenya? The dragon trial, a pilgrimage to supreme sorcery. Visenya had been overzealous in her training just to be worthy. It was said that the Targaryens were blessed with the strength to tame nature's greatest weapons. Dragons. She was born to this. To grasp the primal magic of dragons, one must pass the dragon trial or lose one's mind to terror. With great pleasure. A wisp of black smoke rose from Visenya's skin, and her body burst into flames. Sarah took a step back. This was no longer her fight. From the cocoon of fire and darkness, a serpent rose. With scales as wide as snow and wings so vast they could swallow a village in their mere shadows, Visenya had become a dragon, soaring above the trees around her. As she reached her full height, her eyes, two pools of molten gold, snapped open. Though dragons were flesh made of fire, she brought the howls of icy winds into the world. When she dropped her jaws, a deafening roar shook the forest to its core. Naruto couldn't help but smile with pride. The vain conqueror died the day she breached the dragon fortress and was reborn in blood and fire. This was just the tip of the iceberg, as the dragon trial required one to overcome impossible odds. The instinct to unleash wanton destruction would overwhelm Visenya, driving her mad with an unquenchable bloodlust if she couldn't tame the beast within. Worst case scenario. Visenya succumbed to her thirst for carnage and needed to be put down for good. Naruto wouldn't let that happen, not on his watch. Come at me with everything you've got, my dear. Naruto gave his knuckles a good crack. I know I won't hold back. Sarah could have sworn the great dragon before her was smiling. No tongue of flame belched from Visenya's maw. Instead, her breath unleashed a relentless wave of pristine snow and screaming silver that threatened to bury the earth in an avalanche of her rage. Naruto leaped into the air, Take Mikazuchi materialized in his grasp. With a slash of his sword, he fired a bolt of lightning. Wind and thunder collided, surged, and morphed into a mad whirlwind. The white dragon lunged at Naruto, its obsidian teeth curved like blades and able to lacerate a horse with ease. As steel met scales, Naruto was shocked that Visenya's skin was impervious to the magic-forged weapon. Not even the mighty Aljuin could take blows from Take Mikazuchi without being scarred. With that, Naruto infused his muscles with a massive amount of energy, strengthening his muscles and bones in the process. In split seconds, he was gone. Nowhere to be seen. Visenya remained alert, frantically scanning her surroundings and sniffing out any disturbance in the atmosphere. By the time she registered his presence, he had already plunged a fist into her jaw, unnerving her. Ears ringing and vision jarring, Visenya shook her head, her claws moving haphazardly. Gifted with great powers to reduce armies to ashes and raise kingdoms, Visenya had forgotten humility. She had become reckless because she believed herself invulnerable. She had become fearless because the power of a dragon was undeniable. Oh, how wrong I was. Always be cautious and decisive in battle, Naruto had reminded him incessantly. If the seas had calmed down, it was because a storm was approaching. Regaining her composure, Visenya slammed her tail into Naruto's sternum, knocking the wind out of him. To her chagrin, Naruto's form exploded in a puff of smoke. A decoy? Visenya scanned the field cautiously. Where was he? Had he been fighting Naruto's doppelganger this whole time? Closing his eyes, he widened his senses. He could feel everything around him. Squirrels climbing a trunk, the sweet scent of blueberries floating in the air, birds pecking insects from the mud, leaves fluttering from the high branches, and a familiar heartbeat. Over there. When Visenya focused her attention on the sky, she saw horror. Naruto stood in the air with his hands raised, a glowing white shaft projecting above him. The Rasengan. Though it may look beautiful, its purpose was to pierce flesh and chop bone. Visenya had seen Naruto blast chunks of mountains with that luminescent sphere. A dragon's scale might be impenetrable to a certain extent, but it wouldn't make it invincible. It would still be susceptible to an overwhelming attack. Aggression. It's what defines a hero. Naruto narrowed his eyes. A hero overcomes the odds. It could be the loss of a loved one, the discovery of a truth, or the realization of a dream that reveals itself to be a nightmare. They become fears and insecurities that hold them back. Make them see the worst of everything. The allure of despair sometimes becomes too strong, and we lose ourselves to it. And when we give in to our fears, we lose. The dragon's trial isn't just about controlling the form you hold. It serves as a reminder that you should never lose yourself to your fear. You've been in the shadows of your own doubts, Visenya. Naruto turned his attention to Sarah, who was watching the battle from behind a tree. Without hesitation, he fired a sphere of blinding white light in Sarah's direction. Now let's see what you choose to be. Already? White. Everything was white. Sen. Rushing blood, the heart's broken lullaby, and a rich symphony of ocean waves enveloped Visenya. Bison. Who's calling her? This voice. So familiar. Visenya. Visenya's eyes opened and she was brought back to reality. She found herself resting in Sarah's lap. What happened? You saved me. Sarah looked at her in disbelief. Visenya washed her throbbing forehead and sat down. That feeling of being all-powerful suddenly disappeared. Back to immortal again, Visenya reflected. You have abandoned yourself for others. Naruto's voice boomed like rumbling thunder. He was backlit, little more than a silhouette due to the bright sun shining behind him as he levitated above the dragon keep. Awe-inspiring and Herculean, the people of Westeros would have abandoned their faith had they seen Naruto in his full glory. Transcending beyond the nature of a dragon. You have passed the dragon trial. But. Suddenly, Visenya and Sarah were surrounded by hundreds of masked assassins, each and every one of them armed to the teeth. You haven't completed your task yet. Dangling the bell between his fingers, Naruto smiled. A dragon warden is not only the protector of the kingdom, but also a force of nature. Now is the time for you to show me your limits. There was no room for ambivalence. Sarah knew her limits well, but if she wanted to overcome her fear of being defenseless, then there was no time to sulk. She was either running away or facing adversity head-on. Taking one look at Visenya, Sarah felt inspired. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Sarah could tell Visenya was afraid if her trembling fingers were any indication. Never retreat, never surrender. We will fight with all our might. Together, Sarah. Sarah nodded, her swords manifesting from the snow and lightning. Strengthened by magic, they were light as feathers, strong as a bull, and miles faster than a cheetah. With a burst of speed, Visenya and Sarah disappeared. Slashing and slashing, they tore their way toward Naruto, racking up the body count at an incredible pace. With a left dodge, Visenya split her enemy in half, blood spraying across her cheeks. With a right jerk, Sarah plunged her blade into her enemy's stomach. Kill one and two more bastards will emerge from the mud and sand. This wasn't getting anywhere. Sarah. Visenya knocked down an assassin and barked. I'll create an opening. Go get that bell. I understand. Clenching her jaw, Visenya leaped into the air, infusing tremendous energy into her fists, and plunged back to earth like a meteor. Geysers of ice shot out, eradicating the horde in a split second. Now. Sarah lunged at Naruto, steel clashing with steel. It was then that Takemikazuchi burst into flames. Sarah had heard legends about that legendary sword. One blow from Takemikazuchi and even dragons would die. Futile. Suddenly, Naruto stepped back, sheathed his sword, and drew it with inhuman speed. It was as if the wind were sharpening like a blade, dissecting trees and boulders as it swept through the forest. To his surprise, Sarah had accurately parried the blow and fluidly countered with a brighter strike. She hadn't intended to decapitate him, but her realization was a second too late. The bell fell into Sarah's hand. Slavers Bay prospered as the mighty Valyrian freehold melted into oblivion. Its rulers were cruel despots and narcissistic crones who saw themselves as gods, taking the glory of the old Giscari Empire with twisted pleasure. Slavery was a currency in a hellhole where men were sold as eunuchs for war and women were forced into lives of prostitution. After all, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. Atop the Great Pyramid of Meereen, the aristocrats of Slavers Bay sat on their thrones, sipping apricot wines, as the Harpies' jubilee played loudly. It was an annual celebration where the tyrants of Slavers Bay gathered in Meereen to celebrate the fall of Old Valyria and the rise of the Grand Masters of Meereen, the Wise Masters of Yunkai, and the Good Masters of Astapor. Feasts would be held, decadence would be indulged, and the fighting pits would be in uproar. Cornac Zopal of Meereen, a lecherous curmudgeon with a fetish for small children, carefully assessed his fellow masters with his droopy eyes. He never went anywhere without his child slaves tied to him. I proposed this meeting to discuss something important. A matter that could determine our rule in Essos. Pravani's Monaklas of Astapor snorted, knowing what was coming. Though he had a hateful face and was very obese, he was cunning as a snake, having pioneered the infamous Unsullied. I'll take a wild guess and say you intend to raid the ruins of Valyria. Akazuo Yunzak of Yunkai rolled his eyes. He was a bald man, a fanatic, and an erotic curmudgeon. If he had a toothache, he would burn his slaves at the stake as a sacrifice to his gods. If the weather wasn't to his liking, he would drown his slaves for his gods. The 14 flames have consumed the cursed Valyrians. What can you find there but bones and ashes? There are things more valuable than gold and silver. Kornak smiled. I'm talking about dragons. Pravenes and Takas raised their eyebrows, exchanged glances, and burst into mocking laughter. Dragons? Pravenes held his enormous belly. Have you gone mad, Kornak? The dragons that once flew in Essos are gone. Need I remind you that the Targaryens are thriving in Westeros with their dragons as we speak? Kornak spat. 3 dragons. That was all it took for Aegon Targaryen to bring Westeros to its knees. The disturbing fact sent a chill up their spines. The old Giscari Empire boasted the unsurpassed close-quarters legions whose mere presence on the battlefield could break the spirit of any adversary. That was how wars were won. Shock and awe. But what if there was an unstoppable force that could neither be surprised nor frightened? What if there were monstrosities that could turn an army to ash and melt fortresses? That was how the Valyrian dominated Essos. With dragons. In retrospect, all of Essos did not bow to Valyria because of its dragons. They bowed down out of fear. Fear made men timid. The masters of Slayer's Bay took that lesson to heart and ingrained fear in their slaves, because fear was primal. Once men became timid, they would prefer the calm of despotism to the stormy sea of freedom. Now imagine 100 dragons, under our reign. Kornak said, his hands wide open, allowing Pravenes and Takas to resist the idea. 100 dragons. All of Essos, no, the world would be at their mercy. Still, it was only a pipe dream, no matter how grandiose it was woven. Pravenes stared at Kornak and replied in a brusque blunt tone. And how, pray tell, are we to acquire the dragons you speak of? Are you proposing we send our fleets to Westeros and fight the Targaryens in uncharted territory? That will be madness of the first order. It is said that the dragons of old Valyria are not yet extinct. They are very much alive. If we send our slaves to plunder the richest and most treasured secrets of old Valyria, we might stumble upon dragon eggs. Ignorance was the reason behind the fall of the old empire. Lies, misinformation. Takas was not going to repeat the mistakes of his ancestors, and his wrinkled face was visibly hardened, a peculiarity that made the slaves tied to his throne gulp almost imperceptibly. You spoke such tales with a careless statement, and you expect us to send our slaves to do your bidding. Although the journey to the ruins of Valyria would be arduous, the masters of Slavery Bay weren't bothered in the least. Their slaves would sail the smoking sea. If they perished in the treacherous storms, the masters needed only to send more. And they had a great many slaves at their disposal. But would it be a worthwhile investment? Pravenes' lips tightened. I think Takas has made a point. My Unsullied aren't trained to be sailors, but foot soldiers. It would be unwise for us to assault a place that is known to be impregnable. I'll cross the steaming seas with or without you two. Kornak's expression darkened. But if my sources are correct. And if my slaves found what I'm looking for, then you of all people should know that no amount of bootlicking will stop me from destroying Astapor and Yunkai. Pravenes and Takas shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Out of fear, they admitted. Stars decorated the black satin with their sparkling dots, illuminating Dragon Fortress even on its coldest night. The lavender curtains fluttered in the evening breeze, and the fragrance of honeysuckle drifted into the bedroom. Naruto had carried the unconscious Visenya in his arms and tucked her into his bed. The dragon transformation magic had taken its toll on her. After all, she was only human. Taking one last look at Visenya's sleeping form, Naruto gently closed the door and headed out to the courtyard, which was an open-air gallery for exotic flowers and sculptures. Sarah sat by the pond with a cup of rice wine between her fingers, gazing at the stars in peaceful silence. Who would have thought that wine could be fermented from rice and still taste like sweet opulence? Any thoughts on your wish? Naruto plopped down next to Sarah, his knight accompanied by the sparrows singing in the trees. I've thought about it. Sarah tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. There's something I always want to do. I'm listening. Closure. Sarah watched his ocean blue eyes flicker. Then she said, I want to know why my father abandoned me. Why did he sell me out when he said he loved me more? There were so many questions I wanted to ask him. He thought about what she had said and felt her hand still in his, her thumb tracing slow circles. The truth often doesn't set you free. It might hurt you. Make you regret it. Are you ready for that? It was a moment before he answered, his voice wavering. I don't know, Naruto. Are you afraid of the truth? Naruto nodded speechlessly and she smiled at his honesty. Is this about his late wife? He rarely spoke about her. I guess I want to forget about everything. Put myself to work and take care of the dragons. I couldn't bring myself to love Visenya. Or you. Naruto sighed and took Sarah's hand, surprising her. But I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of running from the truth. Tired of pointing fingers and blaming others for my insecurities. And the truth is I need to move on. Who would have thought that the mighty and powerful Naruto, a god among men, felt vulnerable and helpless? Sarah squeezed his hand, cradled it, and rested her head on his shoulder. He could smell her, soft as lilac. Do you regret allowing Visenya and me to be here in the Dragon Keep? You two are the best thing that's ever happened to me. There isn't a day that goes by when I don't feel blessed to have you both here. We might have our ups and downs. Even more so with Visenya. Naruto chuckled. But it makes me feel alive. His confession made Sarah's heartbeat even faster. It was then that she noticed his shirt was loose and was able to assess him so clearly. He was made of marble, chiseled to perfection and the living aspiration of what men should emulate. His bronzed hair was slicked back and his strong jaw oozed strength. She felt her heart thump in her chest and fire warm her cheeks. She lifted her head from his shoulder and looked directly at him. Why did you try to kill me just now? Naruto raised an eyebrow. I'm not following you. Our sticks. You fired a Rasengan at me. If Visenya were to get lost in her dragon transformation magic, she might not come to save me. A frown creased her beautiful features, but it barely hid the pain in her eyes. At that, Naruto shook his head. When you transform into a dragon, you become biologically and physiologically like a dragon. Your instincts. Your senses. The compulsion to kill. They are sharpened and heightened to extraordinary levels. But your awareness will fade over time. The only way for Visenya to pass the test is to evoke a powerful emotion in her. And I know she cares deeply for you. You used me as bait. His eyes were downcast. You made a bet. A bet that could cost me my life. You're wrong. His voice softened. I would never put your life at risk. If Visenya didn't react to my provocation, I was ready to intervene for you. You were hiding behind the trees, weren't you? Those trees were ready to protect you if Visenya didn't do what she did. She loves you more than you know, Sarah. Sarah pursed her lips silently, gathering her thoughts. I shared my bed with her. Did you know that? Yeah. I always imagined my relationship with Visenya as a thread pulling at my heart. She looked down. She was everything I wanted to be. A warrior of flawless beauty and grace. At first, I was mocking her. I just want to see her break character. But the more I do those things, the more I realize the truth. I knew I could no longer lie next to her without wanting to touch her. I couldn't feel her breath on my mouth without wanting to kiss her. Sarah was afraid to look Naruto in the eyes. She was afraid of seeing the look of betrayal and rage, but her curiosity got the better of her. Looking up, she was surprised to see his smile. There was something about his smile that sent butterflies in her stomach. When his face lit up, the radiance he exuded made anyone fortunate enough to see it feel the irresistible urge to smile back. I'm glad you're there for Visenya. I knew how he felt about me, but I wasn't ready to act on it. I didn't want to lose the people I loved, so I shut myself away. It was cowardly of me. I think I'm in love with you, Naruto. Sarah blurted out, only to realize what she'd said a few seconds later. It was too late to take it all back, but she didn't regret it. Do you love me? Naruto looked away, as if lost in his own thoughts. Do you want to go to Estarossa? Visit your father? Do you love me? Her tone was firm. She didn't back down from her confession. His silence had plunged a dagger into her heart. Humiliating, she thought. To think she was dismissed so coldly. As she was about to walk away from him, he reached for her wrist and offered her a weak smile. Her body began to tremble with anticipation. Are you willing to be the anchor to my life? The happiness to my soul? Sarah straddled his hips and leaned into him, feeling the warmth between them and his arm tightening around her waist. Suddenly, everything felt right. The rice wine, the chirping sparrows, his confession it couldn't have been more perfect. Like magic, her past no longer mattered. She looked up at him with hazy, longing eyes, and he kissed her softly on the lips. He brought his hands to her face and touched her cheek, gently brushing his fingers across it. He leaned in slowly and kissed her once more. She closed her eyes and was lost in euphoria and ecstasy. This was what heaven felt like. She took his hand and brought it to her breasts, a moan rising in her throat as his fingers slid through her black negligee. The world faded from them, and they were locked in their moment of pleasure and passion. When she pulled away from him, he saw her radiant face. Wordlessly, he undid the buttons on his shirt. He watched her as he did so and heard her soft breathing as he moved down. With each loosened button, he felt her fingers brush against his skin. I'm a monster, Sarah. Is this what you want? I don't know anyone as human as you. Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. You still haven't answered my question. Fear flashed across Naruto's eyes, but it disappeared instantly. I do. I love you, Sarah. She crashed her lips against his, moaning fervently. Unbeknownst to them, Visenya was standing on her balcony, watching everything unfold before her. Frost grew on the edges of the windows, like creeping mold as her rage raged. She betrayed you. Chapter 6. Sarah snored softly in the crook of Naruto's neck. His powerful arms wrapped around her creamy shoulders as he felt the warmth between them, their naked bodies intertwined beneath the sheet. As the sunlight streamed in, Sarah's flawless skin almost glowed. A superb masterpiece brought to life, Naruto reflected. It was like a song, a dream, or a whisper, and he didn't know how he could have lived in solitude for so long without her. The night they had shared together was like a fairy tale to him. Their mouths created a warm path to his, their tongues danced to a rhythm, his hand slid down her neck as her nails grazed her skin, finding purchase in her hair and tugging at the tangle. A shiver ran through his body, a sensation he had forgotten. Gone was the guilt that kept him from betraying his late wife with Sarah. He was a man, and she was the woman he wanted. Not long ago, he was adrift, afraid to love, and languishing in darkness. But now he saw a glimmer of light. Some semblance of hope to let him live for more. And he'd be damned if he'd let that light be extinguished by his own misgivings. Untangling himself from Sarah's grasp, Naruto managed to free himself. As much as he wanted to lie in bed and marvel at Sarah's beauty, there were things he needed to attend to. Placing a soft kiss on her lips and brushing a few strands of her hair over her ear, Naruto got out of bed, gathered his clothes from the marble floor, and gave his aching arm a good stretch. So this is what home felt like. Running a hand through his slicked back hair, Naruto calmly walked out of his room. The brilliant flash of lightning flickered through the black clouds, and deafening explosions echoed through the dragon fortress, startling Naruto. Then came torrential rains that pounded his mansion. For a moment, Naruto swore he saw the world dyed blood red. As he walked toward the hallway, a breeze blew past him, and a feeling of foreboding nearly made his stomach churn. With his heightened senses, he perceived a stench of juniper and damp moss wafting through the air. After all these years, he would never forget the scent of evil that had once tainted his old home and filled him with dread. Kagaya's scent seeped from Visenya's room. No, no, no. Horrified, Naruto's heart thundered in his chest as he rushed into Visenya's chamber. When he kicked the door open, a gust of bitter wind swept over him, and his nightmare became reality. Visenya sat on her bed, still and motionless. White frost had painted all the walls, and her dead eyes were fixed on the window. In his peripheral, Naruto saw the mirror and gasped. Instead of Visenya's beautiful face shining in the mirror, Naruto saw Kagaya and her cruel smile mocking him. His eyes widened in terror as he realized. Why did you betray me, master? The platinum gold of her hair had faded to white, her skin was pale, and her violet eyes held a dangerous glint. This wasn't mere possession. The steel in Visenya's voice had turned into a false sweetness, similar to Kagaya's. I don't sleep very well. Or at all. The haunting image of Kagaya began to laugh in the mirror, but her distorted voice didn't go unnoticed. I spent my days in darkness, imagining ways to torment you. How to destroy Naruto Uzumaki, the man who took everything from me. I thought of corrupting your beloved dragons. Making them deranged. It would be poetic, I supposed, but unrefined. Too rude. And then I found Visenya. Naruto almost cursed out loud. The air around Visenya had warped into something foul, and the biting cold pierced her skin. Kagaya's sinister echo rang in her ears. You locked me away like I was an animal. But I will never return to that hole again. I will be reborn once more. And this time, the world will burn when I rise. But before that, I will savor the pleasure of taking everything from you again. Regaining his composure, Naruto sat next to Visenya and took her hand. He could feel a maelstrom of madness and fury running rampant inside her. But it's not too late. If only he could seize it. Listen to me, Visenya. Whatever's talking to you in your head, it's not real. Isn't it? Visenya turned slowly to him, her tone coming through like a twisted song. She told me everything. She's not real. Naruto gritted his teeth and cradled her face in his hands, his voice deep and somber. Listen to me, Visenya. Hey. Look at me. Whatever's inside you, you have to fight it. I know you're scared and… Scared? The ghost of a smile touched Visenya's wine-red lips. I don't feel anything. On the contrary, why do I smell your fear? Things were starting to make sense for Naruto. Visenya was not possessed. Who would have thought the Targaryens had the cursed blood of Otsutsuki running through their veins? In a twist of fate, Visenya was the perfect vessel for Kagaya, the madwoman whose insatiable appetite for violence nearly broke the world. What good is power if you can't protect those you love? I told you so, didn't I? Visenya's smile widened. I will have both my revenge on you. A chilling shudder ran down his spine. Hinata no, Kagaya had told him the same thing after she murdered his children. In his mad rage, he'd killed the woman who loved him unconditionally. Ever since that night, he thought of 1,000 what-ifs. Could he have purged Kagaya's evil from Hinata without killing her? Was there anything he could have done to prevent that disaster? A terrible weight compressed his chest, trapping him ever since. There was a time when he fell into the most terrible of human traps and was blinded by the sheer magnitude of his power. At the height of his career as Hokage, countries would surrender if they made him their enemy. The military would lose morale and flee if they encountered him on the battlefield. With all the unholy powers he wielded, he was powerless to save his loved ones. It wasn't Naruto's nature to get grumpy about what-ifs. When he wasn't tending to his dragons, he was busy researching, hoping to unravel Kagaya's curse. I couldn't save Hinata from you once. Naruto snarled, his eyes radiating bright crimson. I wouldn't make that mistake twice. Visenya grinned from ear to ear, the storm's ear-splitting symphony and mirthless giggles filling Naruto with dismay. Fuck that. It's just fear, he told himself. He'd spent too much time being afraid. Too much time diminished by loss. Too much time being anything but what he needed to be. Without hesitation, he pushed her onto the bed, pinned her hands above her head, and ripped her velvet nightgown to shreds. Black flames ignited from his fingertips, and the entire dragon keep began to shake. Stay where you belong, Kagaya. Naruto slammed his hand down on Visenya's stomach. A myriad of black seals etched themselves around her armor, shocking her in the process. Visenya's beautiful features contorted in agony, and she thrashed like a rabid animal. In my memories. Damn you, Naruto Uzumaki. Visenya gritted her teeth, her voice hoarse and menacing. Do you think you've won? No. You. I was inspired by my father's seal when I designed this one. It is not a simulacrum of its predecessor, mind you. There is no threshold to its ability to hold its prisoner. No tipping point where you can spread your disease elsewhere. The seal is sublime. You made Visenya your host. Naruto bowed, a dark smile crossing his face. I made her your cage. Your consciousness will be suppressed to the point where it does not exist. Hatred flashed in Visenya's sinister eyes as she glared at Naruto. Her mouth opened, trying to find words, but nothing came out. Ah, I see. The seal is working faster than I thought. Caressing Visenya's face, Naruto breathed out a sigh. Do you know what your biggest mistake is, Kagaya? You always imagine yourself to be somehow superior. Sadly, you're incapable of moving forward. Perpetually stuck in the past. A human error. No matter how many times you go back, I'll always win. Not because I feel superior, but because I'm determined. Disciplined. Prepared. The writhing stopped. Visenya's face turned placid, but Naruto could still see Kagaya's futile struggle in her eyes. I designed every inch of the dragon fortress. Every blade of grass. And when Visenya and Sarah found their way here, I prepared contingency plans. To ensure you'd never get your hands on them, like you did my wife and children. Waves of anger ran through his face, but his tone was barely audible. Do you really think I'll let you take them away? The white light burst from Visenya's eyes as she let out one last scream before her body collapsed. Zox. Kill him. It began as gentle whispers, seducing her with sweet promises, but it transformed into something horrendous. The venomous voices were like hammers, brutally pounding on Visenya's skull, demanding servitude and destruction. The more she resisted, the more relentless those voices became. Still, it was her battle, a struggle she must overcome on her own. When she saw Sarah and Naruto together, her heart broke. Love wasn't supposed to hurt, but to heal and be a refuge from her misery. So why did her chest hurt so much? Yes, she loved him like a fool. He despises you? That poisonous voice mocked her once again. So why couldn't I recognize her? You are nothing more than a slave to him. I didn't know. He knew it, but he doesn't care. Was he a fool not to know her love for him? Your love is their lever. How much more must she do to let him know? Cut his throat. Make him feel your pain. This fool's love. If you can't have it, no one can. As she rubbed her hands against the moisture in her eyes, pain washed over her. Perhaps that's why he gave in to the darkness. Are you awake? Visenya's eyes opened, waking to the steady rain on her window. The sound was a natural lullaby. The voices and the pounding headaches were gone. Naruto sat on the edge of her bed, taking her hand and stroking it with his thumb. He had watched her sleep, unwilling to leave her side. All this time, she had been fighting a war alone, but her bravery kept her going. Visenya was truly indomitable, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she didn't flinch even when the odds were against her. She wasn't some slender creature who sat in a tower, brushing her hair and waiting for some knight to rescue her. I'm sorry, Visenya. Sorry. With a weak smile, Visenya probed. What for? I didn't know you were carrying this burden alone. If I had been more attentive, then you wouldn't have to suffer. Naruto clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. There was nothing that would absolve him of his guilt if something terrible happened to Visenya. His stupor was interrupted when Visenya tapped his forehead with her fingers. Visenya. I know what you're thinking. Visenya sighed and closed her eyes. Don't take the weight of the world on yourself and put on a brave face, master. It's not your fault. I chose to fight Kagaya alone. Besides, I didn't want you to be worried about me. Naruto looked away. Did I make you feel like this? Am I that untrustworthy of you, Senya? All this time, you were fighting this battle alone. You didn't feel the need to consult me with your problems, even when I was killing you. How could you do this to me? Since when do you care about me? Since when did I not care about you? At that, Visenya felt fire burning her cheeks. So what is she? This Kagaya Otsutsuki. Naruto's eyes were downcast and moody. A relic of the past, like me. Many religions gave her different names. The weeping woman. The great other. The stranger. The truth is, she's nothing more than a parasite. Ideas, inspirations, and forbidden magic she's been whispering to them to fuel human greed. The first men made their way into Westeros because of her. The children of the forest inevitably created the long night because of her. The only thing I can do is seal her away. She'll keep coming back. She always comes back. I don't hear her in my head anymore. Good. A small smile curled Naruto's lips. I've implanted a seal on you. It will notify me if Kaguya is influencing you, but I doubt it will happen again. Why didn't you tell me about her? Naruto exhaled a long sigh, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. I was hoping to spare you her story. Being immortal, it can be a life of heartache and tragedy. Kaguya and we've killed many who deserved it. And many who didn't. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, Kaguya wanted to reshape the world for the better. Like you, she saw a lot of suffering in the world and wanted to do something about it. And look what's become of her. She wanted to bury the past, so I chose not to tell you. I wanted you to choose what you wanted to be, not those who have been. Disturbed by the ancient tradition, Visenyu's curiosity got the better of her. Kaguya is feared as a goddess of death, it seems. What are you then? I want to know the truth. The truth. Naruto tasted the word with stifled disdain. Truth. How he loathed the truth. The truth hadn't set him free, not even in the slightest, but it had imprisoned him in a cycle of self-loathing. When I founded Dragon's Keep, I chose to live as a man. But the truth is, like Kaguya, I was born a monster. The only difference between her and me is that I haven't gone mad with power. At least not yet. From the trembling of Naruto's lips, Visenyu could discern doubt and fear in him. It was as if he believed he might fall into depravity and become the monster he swore to destroy. A monster like Kaguya. My love, you're better. I know it. Am I? Naruto chuckled. I've learned to close my heart to many things. I've closed my heart to the despair and suffering of those who lived in Essos. Or Westeros. I refuse to allow myself to feel for them because they wouldn't feel for me. Selfish, perhaps. But I believe that's the right thing to do. With our powers come far greater responsibilities. The most difficult choice required the strongest will. It would be child's play for Naruto to conquer Essos, but she had seen what would become of those who abused their power. Visenyu could understand why Naruto vehemently denied her the chance to conquer Essos. The fate of those who kill and slaughter in the name of justice had always been cruel, something Naruto did not wish for her. Promise me, Senya. Visenyu opened one eye and saw something she had rarely seen. A tear had fallen from Naruto's ocean blue eyes. It was in that moment that she saw his fragile side. His vulnerability and fears laid bare for her to bear. If there was one thing the mighty dragon warden feared, it was loneliness. Naruto probably never got over losing those he loved and cared about. Then again, no one could. Mastery. Promise me you won't hide anything from me again. I don't want to lose you. A sweet silence fell between them as they stared into each other's souls. No words were needed to convey their feelings for each other. The past that bound Naruto had been shattered. Man was not an island, Naruto thought to himself. We need those who love us. We need those who hate us. We need others to tether us to life, to give us a reason to live, to feel, to see the light in our darkest days. Tell me you really haven't given me an answer, you know. Visenyu stifled a giggle. I told you I love you, didn't I? You don't need to reciprocate my feelings. You don't need to reject me or take any responsibility. But I just want to know. I love you, Senya. Naruto offered her a bright smile, a smile that lit up like the morning sun. All the sadness, all the pain of the past had made this moment even sweeter. More than anything. It was those words that made Visenyu realize how foolish she was. She was a warrior princess. He was a hermit. They were never meant to meet, yet life had a way of bringing people together. They fell in love despite their differences, and once they did, something beautiful was created. Power is the crown that eats the head. The Lord of the Seal of Bravos, Viggo Loredan, nearly drowned under his own power. After witnessing the terrible magic wielded by the Dragon Keeper, he had become a shell of his former self, easily frightened by thunder and dark rooms. His insufferable son met a fate worse than death. Stripped of any semblance of sanity, his son was reduced to a catatonic state. Killing him would be mercy. Sipping his wine, Viggo slumped in his throne. In Bravos, no entitled lobster could become Sea Lord, for an empire had 3 stages. Savagery, rise, and decline. Bravos was conceived from savagery when the Dragon Keeper burned the slave masters and freed the city from servitude. Through hardship, Bravos rose to great power. Yet, like all great empires, a pernicious and subversive evil festered within Bravos. It was a cancer. A cancer called decay. Joseph Loredan was the personification of decadence, a lazy man who flaunted his father's glory as his own. The Dragon Warden came, brought fire and fury with him, and eradicated the cancer. Bravosi applauded the reckoning, and for the sake of his iron reign, he applauded alongside his people. It sickened him, for he traded the prosperity of his empire for the life of his son. My deepest condolences, Lord Loredan. Cornac Zopal straightened and offered the Sea Lord a small nod. Your son does not deserve his fate. The Dragon Warden must not go unpunished for his crimes. I'm sure you didn't come here to show me sympathy, Cornac. Vigo didn't bother to hide his pallor of disgust at the half-naked boys chained to Cornac's wrist. It's not like you know what sympathy means anyway. Cornac chuckled. No need to be rude, Lord Loredan. I'm bringing you great gifts. 100 pieces of gold slabs. I never took you for a charitable man. Surely you didn't sail all the way to Bravos just to give me 100 pieces of gold slabs. Emptiness was living chained by fear. Fear of loss, of death, and of pain. Vigo saw only emptiness in Cornac's slaves. Those who dared to run away would be whipped, those who dared to defy would be flogged. The cruelty of men was beyond Vigo's understanding. What horrible atrocity did those slaves endure? Cornac waved his hand lazily. I heard that the Dragon Guardian isn't a fairy tale. That he's the dragon incarnate. A man who can breathe fire. A monster that consumes and destroys. Hasn't he breathed fire into your house? Hasn't he consumed your son and destroyed your life? Watch your tongue, Cornac. You may be the overlord of your city, but you're a mere guest in Bravos. A tense, terrible silence stretched between the two men. Cornac studied Vigo through narrowed eyes, but he knew he'd hit a raw nerve. The gods don't come into our lives to deliver justice. Only those with power do. The Dragon Warden has proven that, hasn't he? If you're here to borrow my army to plunder old Valyria, then you can forget it. Bravos will not attack the Dragon Warden's home. Have you grown weak and feeble? The lords of the Seal of Bravos are brave men. No. Men are so fragile, weak. Men break and die. The Lord of the Seal is nothing of the sort. You are supposed to be a god of war. God of war? It would seem Cornac knew nothing of the Sea Lord's valor. Each Sea Lord would flog the back of their chosen successor with a harvest of game during the inauguration ceremony. Why? To remind themselves that Bravos was bought with fire and blood and what their ancestors had sacrificed to grant them such heights. Don't pretend to know what I want, Cornac. Cornac clicked his tongue. All men want the same things. Power. Wealth. Women. Aren't we enslaved by our own base instincts? But what's so bad about that? Vigo snorted. In a storm, you don't tie two boats together. They'll drag each other down. Are you implying the odds are against me? Cornac let out a hoarse laugh. Never tell me the odds. It wasn't Cornac's wrinkles or weathered face that made Vigo realize how small and foolish he was. Cornac hadn't seen the monster he'd seen, hadn't felt the terror he'd felt. Perhaps not this day or the next, but one day, when the world came crashing down on Cornac, he would panic like suicides do when they realize their folly. To wage war against the Dragon Warden was to court death. With a slow sigh, Vigo looked away. No amount of persuasion will calm me, Cornac. I will not join you on your crusade. My advice. Abandon this path and go spend the rest of your miserable life with your childhood toys. Otherwise, only death awaits you. Cornac weighed Vigo carefully. Have you heard the story of the jumping fleas? It's not a story of the little people, mind you. You see, fleas like to jump to unknown heights, but when a man came and tipped a glass jar over the flea, it jumped and hit the top of the jar. Time and again, it wouldn't go any farther. And when the man took the jar away, the flea didn't jump any higher than it was used to. It believed there was a glass ceiling. The laugh escaped Vigo's mouth. And you think I'm the flea in your little tale? No, Cornac. The jar was never removed in the first place. The glass ceiling is there and always will be. What you're after is the equivalent of poking a beast with a rusty spear, you sleazy old coon. You have no idea what's coming. I have every idea of what's coming. Cornac sat up a little taller, but his dry lips had stretched. You know. Vigo snorted. You want to burn old Valyria and take its treasures. The dragons, I suppose. Let me assure you of this, Cornac. The stories you heard about the Dragon Warden. About what he did for Bravos. About what he did to the enemies of Bravos, if nothing else, those stories have been watered down. I see. Cornac shook his head and stood. Then don't blame me when I return and ravage Bravos. The treasures and secrets found in old Valyria will be mine. I will parade the Dragon Keeper's body at the gates of Bravos. And I will rain every agony, every violation imaginable upon you. When I'm done, you will regret not choosing my side. The winning side. Burning fury nearly consumed Vigo as he threw his cup at the wall. You're a worm, Cornac. A worm who was considered a snake only because you can slither, but that power of yours isn't real. You have no idea what you're up against. Parading the Dragon Guardian's body. Fool. A stupid old fool. You have no idea what's coming. Did curiosity kill the cat? No, ignorance did it. Cornac laughed and left the Sea Lord's hall. Even God can die, Lord Loredan. Weeks had passed, and the colorful flora that painted Dragon Keep seemed to shine even brighter. The morning mist covered the moss-covered hills, the craggy peaks, the grassy valleys, and even the thick forest that stretched like homemade quilts over the hills. Visenya enjoyed the cool breeze, which purified her after tending the flock of sheep in the highlands. Did you have a good rest? Sarah left the cottage with a bucket of freshly squeezed milk. When she learned her lover was possessed, she thoughtlessly darted into his room and trailed kisses down his neck. As night fell, they would curl up to sleep. Sarah had always been explosive with her emotions, never hiding her worries behind subtle smiles. It was something Visenya had come to accept and love about Sarah. Visenya tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and sighed. I feel much better. But the threat within her purged, Visenya felt her focus sharpen, her strength rejuvenate, and her will burn. Vhagar trotted to her mistress's side, her amber eyes showing her reflection, and the ground shuddered as the majestic beast moved. She reached out and stroked the dragon's iridescent scales. How have you been, my dear? Vhagar hummed softly. It's time you tamed Madara, Sarah. For months, Sarah had surreptitiously slipped out of her home to engage in duels with Madara. Each time, she returned battered and broken, yet overwrought as ever. The ruthless Madara saw Sarah merely as an obstacle, but chose not to kill her. Sarah knew Madara had recognized her conviction, but not yet her strength. She needed to become stronger to be worthy. Soon, she said. Where is the master? Usual place. Sarah shrugged and returned to the mansion. Through the thick branches of the Deathwood lies old Valyria, the ancient city of spires, springs, and dreams, now its ruins become the nests of a plethora of primordial dragons. Visenya resisted the urge to shudder as she recalled her encounter with the vicious dragon Shigeru Megala when she intentionally intruded upon its nest. The dragon pretended not to notice her as she hid in the bushes, only to turn and pounce on her without warning. The next thing she knew, Shigeru Megala's teeth were inches from her eyes. When she looked at the stench and darkness of the beast's throat, bile rose in her mouth. It was a sight to behold. Apparently, Naruto had caught the dragon's tail in one hand, thrown it over his shoulder, and slammed the beast into the solid ground. Shigeru Megala became drunk on blood, her rage something that could move mountains. Needless to say, Naruto pummeled the dragon with his bare fists relentlessly until it rolled, exposed its belly in submission, and whimpered pitifully like a puppy. It took an inexplicable trauma to starkly remind Visenya that dragons could never be truly tamed. If Vhagar were to run wild, could Visenya discipline her dragon like Naruto did his? Could she strike at Vhagar with hardened eyes and unbridled strength? Vhagar was like a daughter to her. A child she raised and nurtured. No. She could never harm Vhagar like that. There must be a way to sedate a dragon's bloodthirsty nature without resorting to violence. After all, violence begets violence. Ready? Visenya almost jumped in fright. Master. Naruto smiled. Sarah told me about her wish. My goal is to fulfill it. So, do you wish to come with us to Estarossa? Wherever you go, I will follow. Visenya looked thoughtful then. But Sarah doesn't have a dragon. How will she get to Estarossa? Will you turn into a dragon and let her ride on your back? Did our great and powerful dragon warden just turn into a horse? Naruto playfully squeezed Visenya's nose. I'm a handsome irresistible horse. But no. She can have Saphira. As if on cue, a dragon with deep blue scales galloped to Naruto's side. Can Saphira fly across the narrow sea? It's a long journey, you know. Naruto stroked Saphira's jawline and pressed his forehead against her hard snout. Although Saphira descends from a lineage of small dragons, she was blessed with great stamina and a talented flyer. She'll be fine. Pack up, Visenya. We'll be leaving soon. Joyful, Visenya wrapped her slender arms around Naruto's neck and pulled her into a warm, sensual kiss. If we leave Dragon Fortress, who will protect it? At that, Naruto sneered. Our purpose as Dragon Guardians is to keep dragons out of this realm, not to keep invaders out. There's no army in this world that can take the Dragon Fortress, so there's no need for us to worry. Hell, I'll give the Dragon Fortress to anyone who can conquer it. Then I'll go pack my armor. Please don't bring your wardrobe with you. This is just a sightseeing trip for us. Visenya winked at Naruto and skipped briskly towards the mansion. The narrow sea separating Essos and Westeros was a vast turquoise with salty air. It took the dragon wardens a few hours to cross Westeros and decided to find lodging near Storm's End. As Naruto set foot on the storm-soaked ground, the brutal rain that lashed the coast stopped and the granite clouds parted to allow the warm rays to filter in. There's a village nearby. We can stay there tonight. Naruto rubbed Alduin's jaw, earning him a low croon. Letting the World Eater get anywhere near civilization would spell disaster, so he'd have Alduin stay in the forest. Alduin, be a good boy and stay here. We'll return in the morning. Grunting in annoyance, Alduin simply nodded. Dropping from Vhagar's chair with a thud, Visenya approached Naruto, her arm resting on the hilt of her sword. She dressed as if she were about to go to war, a battle angel in black steel bearing the Dragon Warden's seal, a resplendent dragon engulfed by a maelstrom, emblazoned proudly on her cloak. Would it be appropriate for us to leave our dragons here? What if someone saw them? They'll mistake them for Targaryen dragons. Sarah chimed in, her black cloak billowing in the wind. Besides, there's a herd of deer nearby, so they won't ravage any villages. Gray fog permeated the forest, courtesy of Naruto's magic. Don't interfere with anything you see. Stay low. He looked at Visenya. What? Do I look like a nosy person? Sarah and Naruto nodded firmly. Hey. Veigar, Saphira. Naruto's somber tone caught the attention of the two dragons, who suddenly stood still and still. How inconceivable, Visenya and Sarah mused, that these great beasts of destruction and death would be subservient to a mere mortal. Well, Naruto was no mere mortal, but no one could tell. Visenya and Sarah marveled that the dragons were instinctively afraid of Naruto, as a gazelle would be of a lion. Legends foretold that the dragon warden was more than just monstrous. Could it be that dragons could sense Naruto's true form? Keep an eye on Alduin. Make sure he behaves. At that, Alduin grunted his disapproval, but it softened when Veigar yelled at him. It was no secret that Alduin had been trying to woo Veigar for years, but to no avail. Naruto, Visenya, and Sarah walked along a rolling hill and saw an old tired village. Bony mules scampered away and hid beneath the stifling shade of tall trees when they saw Naruto's eyes. From afar, they could see the outline of Storm's End, a formidable castle that was built to withstand the fury of the moonlit sea. If Visenya's memory served her right, her half-brother, Ori's Baratheon, was the Lord Paramount of the Stormlands. How many years had it been since you last saw him? Suddenly, a woman's wail pierced the air and caught Visenya's attention. Righteous fury flared within her as she watched a gaunt woman being dragged through the mud by four brutes. It didn't take a genius to realize she was about to be hanged. Don't think about it. Naruto chided, his attention on the road ahead. But. We don't interfere. Although the disgust and stifled fury in Naruto's eyes were evident, he chose to remain indifferent. Help me. The disgruntled woman screamed horribly as she was kicked in the stomach. Evil was evil. Lesser, greater, it didn't matter to Visenya. The world was rife with malevolence, not because it harbored evildoers, but because there were people who wouldn't do anything about it. If Visenya had to choose between one evil and another, she would prefer not to choose at all. Pulling her dagger from her boot, Visenya rushed into the commotion. Should we stop her? Sarah smiled. Truth be told, Visenya became inflexible and stubborn when she was on the warpath. Some might call her prudish or even self-righteous, but when things went wrong, she wasn't the type to stand idly by. Naruto clicked his tongue in disapproval and crossed his arms. There was no stopping Visenya now. Make it quick, Senya. Visenya twirled her dagger with her finger, her eyes fixed on the man who wore the Baratheon sigil, the stag on his breastplate. Ori's Baratheon was many things. A man of honor, pride, and loyalty. Once upon a time, under a starry night, he had told her that he could never imagine fathering a bastard because he did not want any child in this world to feel as he did. Could her half-brother tolerate such a great injustice in their land? What crime did she commit to be treated as such? One of the knights turned, his face weathered by wind and sun. Mind your own business, vagabond. Please. It wasn't me. The woman pleaded hoarsely. Shut up, Hitch. Visenya felt her blood boil and her hand tremble with rage. Only murder and treason warrant execution. Was she a spy from foreign lands, or was she a murderer? The lanky man stepped forward, his dirty brown hair flecked with gray. She murdered her husband. How does that sound? No. The woman cried on her knees. I was raped in my own home and my husband was murdered. Please, I said shut your mouth. They kicked her so hard she vomited blood. There comes a time when doing what's right takes precedence over duty. Visenya closed her eyes. This was the moment. I'll give you two choices. Swear on your honor that you'll atone for your sins and serve her to the end. Or I'll execute you with my own hands. Choose. The grumpy knights exchanged glances before bursting into laughter. One of them mimicked Visenya in a high-pitched voice. Swear on your honor or I'll execute you. Ha. Are you going to stab us with that toy knife? Pity. In fact, people enjoyed inventing stories about monsters, which made them seem less monstrous. When they swindled, stole, beat their wives, raped a woman in her own home, starved an old man, or slaughtered a man blind, they liked to think that the bears that entered their huts at dawn were more monstrous than they were. They felt easier to live with. Visenya stopped being courteous to a group of ruthless animals. He gave the woman a cold look. Close your eyes. Things escalated too quickly for anyone to process. In a split second, Visenya threw her dagger directly into the lanky knight's right eye. She didn't even give them a chance to react as she transformed into a lightning bolt and closed the distance between them. With a swift spinning kick, Visenya severed the head of one of the knights. The last two men were about to draw their swords, but it was too late. With Herculean strength, Visenya lifted those two men by their necks, her eyes blazing. Frost, like a disease, began to spread around their necks and turn their skin blue. She could see their lives slowly fading from their eyes. I pity you greatly, for your father has not taught you the grace of unused power, and my mother for not teaching you the joy of power used well. I, Visenya Targaryen, Dragon Warden and Conqueror of Westeros, sentence you to die. Their legs kicked in the air, but their struggles soon ceased, and their bodies sank. When Visenya dropped their cold corpses, they shattered into red blocks of ice. Pulling her dagger from the dead lanky man's eye socket, Visenya sighed. I can't undo what was done to you, but I've given you the justice you deserve. What you do from now on is up to you. With that, Visenya turned around and walked towards Naruto and Sarah. Are you still having fun? Sarah joked. I'm just doing what I should have done. Frankly, Visenya expected to hear a response from Naruto, but nothing came. He simply gave her a warm smile and patted her head. Keep it up and they might call you Visenya the busybody. At that, Sarah choked on her laughter, much to Visenya's annoyance. It surprised Visenya and Sarah when their impassive master approached the downtrodden woman and handed her a bag of golden dragons. Perhaps they had mistaken his neutrality for apathy. The trip to the old town was short. It wasn't as colorful as Visenya thought, nor as lively as Sarah had hoped. Peasants wandered in and out of shops. No one was in a hurry because there was nowhere else to go, nothing special to buy, and nothing to see. Most of the inns were either dilapidated or fronted for brothels, something that displeased Visenya and Sarah. If only women had proper education and learning, then they wouldn't have to sell themselves like this. Sarah could only look away, her heart heavy. They finally found a decent lodging with whitewashed walls. I'll go in first. Let's try not to kill any more people. Unless necessary, Visenya joked. Naruto stood in front of the old Stag's Inn, listening to the din of voices. Too many unwanted eyes, he thought. As he sauntered into the tavern, the innkeeper raised his head above a barrel of pickled cucumbers and sized him up with a look of disdain. Those who ventured near the outskirts of Storm's End were either selling swords or bandits, neither pleasant company, to say the least. What do you want? 3 pints of fresh beer. Yes. The innkeeper wiped his hands on his apron, filled the tankards, and placed them on the counter. It was then that he noticed 2 beautiful blondes in armor and cloaks standing next to the enigmatic man. Targaryens, the innkeeper presumed. You from King's Landing? Naruto blinked. No. But I'm looking for a room for the night. There aren't any, the innkeeper grumbled. I'm afraid you'll have to ask elsewhere. We'd rather stay here. Are you deaf? A pockmarked man who, from the moment Naruto had entered, hadn't taken his grim eyes off him, stood up and approached the counter. 5 of his companions rose behind him, each fingering the truncheons at their waist. I wonder why there are 2 stray Targaryen beauties wandering around this part of the forest. How about you come with us and we can show you a good time? Visenya sneered. Leave us alone, insect. Oh, don't rush it, my lady, the pockmarked man rasped, his breath reeking of garlic and rage. When we're done with you, you'll be begging for more. A burst of laughter broke out among the band of wanderers, much to the chagrin of Visenya and Sarah. One of the men approached Sarah, but she was quicker. In the blink of an eye, Sarah grabbed his hand and snapped her twig-like fingers. She wasn't done yet, for Sarah's fingers were like a viper, striking at her throat and rupturing her windpipe. Blood spurted from her mouth as she clutched her ruined neck with her hands, stifling a horrible rattle before collapsing like a rag doll. The pockmarked man's face twisted. You're paying for that, Hitch. The Arc Sister hissed in its sheath and flashed briefly in the dim light. The tavern seethed in chaos. A shrill scream was heard, and one of the few remaining customers rushed toward the exit. A chair fell with a clatter, an earthenware slab hit the aged floor, and silence fell. The innkeeper trembled as he stared at the horribly cut face of the pockmarked man, who clutched the edge of the counter with his fingers and slowly receded from sight. More outlaws entered with their crossbows raised, roaring at the chaos. Sarah drew brighter, the blade tracing a glittering arc from her hip. As the bowstrings whirred, Sarah and Visenya's swords flashed, and the barrage of arrows flew upward with a metallic whine, spinning in the air until it collided with the ceiling. Hair, like cold mud, was clearly reflected on the bandits' faces, paralyzing their limbs and blocking their throats. They diverted it. Sarah vanished in a black blur, launching herself at 3 thugs from the right. In one case, she slashed one in the chest, another in the temple, and decapitated the last fool, leaving them limping backward and falling limply to the ground. Lustful for blood in battle, Visenya rushed upon her enemies and severed the tendons above their elbows and knees so she could enjoy their screams. Beg for mercy. Beg and I might consider sparing your pathetic lives. Fuck you. One of them spat. How reckless. Visenya swung her sword and dropped 5 heads. Naruto placed some golden dragons on the counter and offered the innkeeper a small smile. I guess you have a room for us now, huh? This should cover all the broken furniture and your work. And my labor. Well, it won't be sanitary to keep the corpses here all day. Go dig some graves for them. It's the least you can do. Taking a quick look around the devastated tavern, the innkeeper saw a few bodies still convulsing in a spreading dark pool. Stifling a shudder, the innkeeper sucked in his breath and vomited. What the hell were these women? They were monsters. What are you? Naruto paused for a moment, scrutinizing the innkeeper with a cold gaze. If anyone asks, tell them the Dragon Guardians have arrived in Westeros. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.